On the morning of her 19th birthday, Serafina Vale doesn't get a cake or candles. She gets a marriage contract signed by the most feared man in Chicago, Cassian Moretti, Mafia King, 34 years old, and absolutely untouchable. 3 days later, she's standing in a private chapel wearing white, surrounded by armed men instead of family. No music, no kiss, just his cold signature and a life sentence she never asked for. But that night, inside his penthouse fortress, he places a bronze key in her hand, and everything she thought she understood about this nightmare begins to crack open. If you want to see how far this story goes, hit like, drop a comment with your city, and follow until the end.
Darkness.
The envelope arrives on a Tuesday morning, slipped under the door of Serafina's apartment like the eviction notice. She almost steps on it carrying groceries inside. 3 cans of soup, discount bread, the kind of food you buy when the hospital bills have already swallowed 2 months of rent. She sets the bags down, picks up the envelope. Heavy paper. Expensive. The kind that doesn't belong in a building where the heat cuts out every winter and the stairs smell like mildew and someone else's desperation. The crest stamped in black wax makes her stomach drop, a serpent coiled around a crown. The Moretti Syndicate. Serafina's hands shake as she tears it open. Inside, there's no letter, no explanation, just a document printed on cream-colored paper with her full name typed at the top in bold letters. Marriage contract. She reads it 3 times before the words stop feeling like a foreign language. Her name, his name, Cassian Moretti. A date 3 days from now. Witness signatures already filled in by people she's never met. Legal terms she doesn't understand stacked in paragraphs dense enough to suffocate. At the bottom, 2 blank lines. One for her signature, one for his. Serafina drops the paper like it's burning her fingers. This has to be a mistake. Some kind of cruel joke. She hasn't seen anyone from that world since her father's funeral 2 years ago. A quiet service with 7 people in attendance and a casket they buried in the cheapest plot the cemetery offered. Her father never talked about his work, never brought it home. He kept that part of his life locked behind a door Serafina was never allowed to open. But she knew. Everyone in their neighborhood knew. You don't work for the Moretti Syndicate without the whole city knowing exactly who owns your time. She grabs her phone, calls her mother. 3 rings. 4. Voicemail. Mom, call me back, now. Something's wrong. She hangs up, paces the apartment, 12 steps from the kitchen to the window. Turn. 12 steps back. The contract sits on the counter like a bomb waiting to detonate. Her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She answers. Hello? Miss Vale. The voice is male, calm, professional. This is Jonathan Hale, legal counsel for the Moretti estate. I'm calling to confirm receipt of the contract. What? I don't understand. The contract outlines the terms of your marriage to Mr. Moretti. The ceremony is scheduled for Friday at 11 a.m. A car will arrive at your residence at 9:30 to escort you to the chapel. I'm not marrying anyone. The words come out too loud, too sharp. I don't even know him. The arrangement was made prior to your father's passing, Miss Vale. All terms were agreed upon and documented. Your signature is required to finalize the agreement. My father he didn't. I've sent additional documentation to your email address. You'll find everything in order. If you have questions, my contact information is included. Wait. The line goes dead. Serafina stares at her phone. Her hands are shaking so hard she nearly drops it. She opens her email. 3 new messages. All from Jonathan Hale. Attachments labeled with clinical precision. Contract_terms.pdf. Financial_documentation.pdf. Legal_obligations.pdf. She opens the first one. The document is 63 pages long. Her father's signature appears on page 17, dated 4 months before he died. The same shaky handwriting from his final weeks, when the cancer had already started eating through his bones, and he couldn't hold a pen without his whole hand trembling. Serafina reads the terms. Reads them again. The language is dense, buried in legalese, but the essentials cut through clear enough. Marriage to Cassian Moretti. Duration, indefinite. Financial provisions included. Termination clause requires mutual consent. And at the bottom of page 17, one line that stops her cold. In exchange for services rendered and debts forgiven, Victor Vale agrees to the union of his daughter, Serafina Rose Vale, to Cassian Moretti as repayment and protection. Repayment, protection. Her father sold her. Serafina barely makes it to the bathroom before she vomits. The next 2 days pass in a fog. She tries calling her mother again, 12 times. Voicemail every time. Either she's not answering or she's screening calls, and Serafina can't decide which possibility makes her angrier. She tries finding a lawyer. 3 different offices. Same answer every time. We can't take cases involving the Moretti syndicate, I'm sorry. One lawyer, an older woman with silver hair and kind eyes, leans across her desk and says quietly, "If you run, they'll find you. If you fight, you'll lose. Sign the papers, keep your head down, and pray he loses interest." Serafina walks out without another word. Thursday night, she packs a bag. Clothes, toiletries, her laptop, the photo of her father from his college graduation. Everything fits in one duffel because she's never owned much to begin with. She sits on the edge of her bed and stares at her phone. She could run, buy a bus ticket, disappear into some small town where nobody's heard of the Moretti name. But she's seen enough movies to know how that story ends. Girls who run from men like Cassian Moretti don't make it to the state line. At 9:30 a.m. on Friday morning, a black car pulls up outside her building. Serafina watches from the window. The driver steps out, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that probably costs more than her rent. He doesn't look up. Doesn't need to. He knows she's watching. She picks up her bag, walks downstairs. The driver opens the door without speaking. She climbs inside. The interior smells like leather and expensive cologne. Tinted windows turn the city into shadows. They drive in silence through streets she's known her whole life, and everything looks different now, smaller, farther away, like she's already gone. The chapel is tucked in a quiet corner of the city where old money built monuments to itself a century ago. Gothic stone, stained glass, iron gates that close behind the car with a sound like a cell door locking. No other cars in the lot. No guests arriving. Just 2 men in black suits standing outside the entrance, hands folded in front of them, eyes tracking her every movement. The driver opens her door. "This way, Miss Vale." She follows him inside. The chapel is smaller than she expected. Dark wood pews, candlelight instead of electric lamps. The air smells like old incense and something metallic she can't place. There are people inside, maybe a dozen. All men, all armed. She can see the bulges under their jackets, the way they stand with weight shifted to one side to accommodate the weapons at their hips. At the front, beside the altar, 2 men in suits wait with briefcases open on the pew beside them. Lawyers. And at the end of the aisle, standing alone beneath the only window still catching morning light, is Cassian Moretti. Serafina's breath catches. She's seen his photo. Everyone in Chicago has. Grainy surveillance shots in the newspaper, courtroom sketches from trials that never quite stuck. But those images didn't prepare her for the reality of him. He's tall, taller than she expected. The black suit fits him like it was sewn directly onto his body. Dark hair, perfectly styled, sharp jaw. Hands that look like they've never done a day of real work but somehow still manage to look dangerous. And his eyes, cold, flat. The kind of eyes that have seen things die and felt nothing. He doesn't smile, doesn't move, just watches her walk toward him like he's assessing a piece of property he's about to acquire. Serafina's legs feel like water. She forces herself to keep walking. When she reaches the altar, Cassian finally speaks. "Serafina." His voice is quiet, controlled. No warmth, no inflection, just her name, delivered like a statement of fact. "Mr. Moretti, Cassian." He tilts his head slightly. "We're about to be married. First names seem appropriate." One of the lawyers steps forward. "If we're ready, we can begin." Cassian nods. The ceremony is brutal in its efficiency. No music, no readings, just an officiant who appears from a side door and recites the vows in a monotone that makes the whole thing feel like a business transaction. "Do you, Cassian Moretti, take this woman?" "I do." "Do you, Serafina Vale, take this man?" Her mouth is dry. She can feel everyone watching her. Cassian's expression hasn't changed. He's not even looking at her anymore. He's looking past her, toward the exit, like he's already thinking about what comes next. I do. The words taste like ash. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Silence. The officiant closes his book. You may kiss the bride. Cassian doesn't move. Serafina's heart hammers. She doesn't know if she's relieved or humiliated. We'll skip that part, Cassian says quietly. He turns to the lawyers. The documents. One of them produces a folder. Cassian signs 3 different pages without reading them. Then he slides the folder across to Serafina. Sign. She picks up the pen. Her hand is shaking so badly the first signature comes out looking like a child's scrawl. She signs twice more, matching the spots where Cassian's name already appears in sharp, confident strokes. The lawyer collects the papers. Congratulations. Nobody responds. Cassian buttons his jacket. We're leaving. He doesn't wait for her, just walks toward the exit with long, purposeful strides that force Serafina to half-jog to keep up. Outside, a different car is waiting, larger, blacked-out windows. The driver opens the back door and Cassian slides inside without a word. Serafina hesitates. Get in. Cassian's voice comes from inside the car, flat and impatient. She climbs in. The door shuts behind her with a heavy thunk that sounds too final. The car pulls away from the chapel. Serafina watches through the window as the building disappears behind them, along with the last shred of her old life. Where are we going? Her voice sounds small. Home. I need to go back to my apartment. My things. Already handled. Your belongings will be delivered by this evening. You went through my apartment? I had people pack your essentials. Anything else you need, you'll buy new. The casual arrogance in his voice makes her teeth clench. You had no right. I have every right. He finally looks at her. Up close, his eyes are even colder. Gray, like winter steel. You signed the contract. That makes you my responsibility, my wife. Which means your safety, your housing, and everything else is now under my authority. You don't go anywhere without my knowledge. You don't make decisions without my approval. And you certainly don't live in that apartment anymore. That's my home. That's a roach-infested fire hazard in a building that should have been condemned 5 years ago. He says it without emotion, like he's reading a weather report. You'll live where I live. That's not negotiable. Serafina's nails dig into her palms. I didn't agree to this. Yes, you did, 30 minutes ago, in front of witnesses and lawyers. Your father made a deal. I'm honoring it. Be grateful. Grateful? The word comes out like a slap. You forced me into a marriage I never wanted, took me away from everything I know, and you want me to be grateful? Cassian's expression doesn't change. Your father worked for me. He helped me identify a threat inside my organization, people who would have killed me and everyone loyal to me if they'd succeeded. In exchange, I erased your family's debts and promised to protect you and your mother after he was gone. We didn't need protection. You were 3 weeks away from eviction. Your mother's medical bills were in collections. You had $17,000 in student loans and no way to pay them. He recites the numbers like he's reading from a file. Without my intervention, you'd be homeless by Christmas. The truth of it hits her like a fist to the stomach. The marriage wasn't about ownership, Cassian continues. It was the only legal mechanism that would allow me to provide for you without drawing attention from federal investigators or rival organizations. Your father understood that. He agreed to the terms willingly. He was dying. He wasn't thinking clearly. He was thinking clearly enough to save your life. Serafina turns away, staring out the window at the city rushing past. Skyscrapers. Traffic. People living normal lives, completely unaware that somewhere in this car, a girl just lost everything. How long? She asked quietly. How long what? How long do I have to stay married to you? Silence. She looks back at him. Cassian is watching her with an expression she can't read. As long as it takes, he says finally. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. The car turns onto Lakeshore Drive. Ahead, the skyline rises like a wall of glass and steel. The driver takes them past the luxury hotels, past the museums, into a neighborhood where the buildings scrape clouds and every window costs more than most people make in a year. They pull up to a tower so tall, Serafina has to crane her neck to see the top. Black glass, gold trim. A doorman in a uniform that looks like it belongs in a palace. "We're here," Cassian says. The driver opens the door. Cassian steps out first, then waits while Serafina climbs out after him. The doorman nods. "Mr. Moretti." "James." Cassian walks past him into the lobby. Serafina follows. The interior is all marble and polished brass. Crystal chandeliers hang from ceilings 3 stories high. Her reflection stares back at her from a dozen mirrored surfaces. A girl in jeans and a sweater that's 2 sizes too big, completely out of place in a world built for people who've never worried about rent. They cross to a private elevator. Cassian presses his thumb to a scanner. The doors open immediately. Inside, there are no buttons, just a small screen displaying a single number, 47. The elevator rises so smoothly, Serafina barely feels the movement. Her ears pop. Through the glass walls, she watches the city fall away beneath them, buildings shrinking, streets turning into ribbons, Lake Michigan spreading out like a sheet of hammered metal. The elevator slows, stops. The doors open directly into a penthouse. Serafina steps out into a space so large it feels obscene. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrap around 3 walls, offering views of the entire city. The furniture looks like it belongs in a museum. Everything is clean lines and expensive fabrics, and the kind of silence that only comes from being 47 stories above the noise of real life. "This is home," Cassian says. He shrugs off his jacket, drapes it over the back of a chair. "Your room is down that hall, second door on the left. Bathroom attached. Closet's already stocked with clothes in your size." "How do you know my size?" "I know everything about you, Serafina." He says it casually, like it's obvious. "Your medical history, your grades, the coffee shop where you worked until last month, the fact that you're left-handed and allergic to shellfish and you've been taking the same bus route to campus for 3 years. He meets her eyes. "I don't make investments without doing research." The word investment makes her skin crawl. "There are rules," Cassian continues. "You don't leave this building without security. You don't speak to reporters or federal agents. You don't discuss my business with anyone. You don't post on social media, and you don't go anywhere near the people from your old life, friends, classmates, anyone who might ask questions you can't answer. So I'm a prisoner. You're protected." "That's the same thing." "No," Cassian says quietly. "It's not. A prisoner has chains. You have everything you need and more than you probably ever imagined. The only thing you can't have is recklessness. And frankly, given the people who would love to use you against me, that's a rule you should be grateful for." He walks past her toward a hallway on the opposite side of the penthouse. "Dinner is at 7. Don't be late." Then he's gone, disappearing into some other part of this massive, sterile prison, leaving Serafina standing alone in a living room that could fit her entire apartment 3 times over. She walks to the windows, presses her forehead against the glass. The city spreads below her like a map of someone else's life. Her phone buzzes. She pulls it out. A text from an unknown number. "Your mother's medical expenses have been paid in full. Her housing has been secured for the next 5 years. You're welcome." See Serafina stares at the message until the screen goes dark. She hates him. Hates the arrogance, the control, the way he's rearranged her entire existence without asking permission. But he saved her mother's life, and she has no idea what to do with that. Odds. Dinner is served in a dining room that feels like it was designed to make people feel small. A table long enough to seat 20. China so delicate it looks like it might shatter if you breathe too hard. A chandelier that probably costs more than her college tuition. Serafina sits at one end. Cassian sits at the other, 20 feet of polished wood between them. A woman in a crisp uniform brings out the first course. Soup. Something French with a name Serafina doesn't recognize. She picks up her spoon, puts it down, picks it up again. Across the table, Cassian eats in silence, methodical and precise. He doesn't look at her, doesn't speak. "Is this what it's always like?" Serafina asks finally. He glances up. "What?" "Dinner. Do you always eat like you're conducting a business meeting?" "I eat efficiently. I have work to do after this." "Right. Can't waste time on conversation." "Did you want to have a conversation?" "I want to understand what the hell I'm doing here." Cassian sets down his spoon, leans back in his chair. "You're here because your father made a deal that protected you from a world you don't understand. You're here because keeping you close is the only way to ensure your safety. And you're here because I don't break my promises, even to dead men. That's not an answer. That's a mission statement. Something flickers across his face. Not quite amusement, but close. What do you want to know? Why marriage? Why not just, I don't know, give my mom money and leave us alone? Because money draws attention. Large sums moving between a crime boss and a civilian family raises questions. Federal investigators look into those things. So do rival organizations. But a marriage? That's personal, private, legally protected. He picks up his wine glass, studies the liquid like it holds answers. It also sends a message. What message? That you're untouchable. He takes a sip. Anyone who harms you is declaring war on me, and nobody in this city is stupid enough to do that, unless they're trying to get to you. Which is why you don't leave this building without security. Serafina pushes her soup away. I can't live like this. I have classes, friends, a life. Your classes have been transferred to online formats. Your tuition is paid through graduation. And your friends, he pauses. Your friends are safer if they think you've moved on. You can't just erase my entire life. I can. I did. And you'll adjust. The certainty in his voice makes her want to throw something. Instead, she stands. I'm not hungry. Sit down. Excuse me? I said sit down. His tone hasn't changed, still quiet, still controlled, but there's steel underneath now. You're angry. I understand that. But walking away from this table won't change anything. So sit, finish your meal, and then you can go back to your room and hate me in private. Serafina's hands shake. She wants to scream, wants to run, wants to do anything that might crack the ice surrounding this man. But she sits. They finish dinner in silence, sans partir. That night, alone in a bedroom bigger than her old apartment, Serafina lies on a bed so soft it feels like drowning. She stares at the ceiling, counts the recessed lights. 32. Her phone sits on the nightstand. She picks it up, opens her contacts, scrolls past names of people she'll never be allowed to call again. Her finger hovers over her mother's number. She presses dial. 3 rings. 4. Serafina? Her mother's voice sounds fragile, old. Mom? Oh, baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Serafina closes her eyes. Did you know? Silence. Mom, did you know what Dad agreed to? He told me the day before he died. Her mother's voice cracks. He said it was the only way, that Cassian Moretti was the only person powerful enough to protect us from the people who wanted to destroy our family. What people? I don't know. Your father never said. He just kept saying we'd be safe, that you'd be safe. Serafina presses her palm against her eyes, trying to stop the tears. I don't feel safe. I feel like I've been sold. You weren't sold, sweetheart. You were protected. There's a difference. Is there? Her mother doesn't answer. I have to go, Serafina whispers. Wait, are you okay? Are you being treated well? She thinks about the penthouse, the clothes in the closet, the medical bills her mother will never have to worry about again. Yeah, she says quietly. I'm okay. I love you. I love you too. She hangs up before her mother can hear her cry. Bad. 3 days pass. Serafina barely sees Cassian. He leaves early, returns late. When they do cross paths, in the hallway, in the kitchen, once in the library on the 31st floor, he nods and keeps walking. It's like living with a ghost who pays the bills. On the 4th night, she wakes up at 2 a.m. to the sound of voices in the hallway outside her room. She slips out of bed, cracks the door open. Cassian stands near the elevator, talking to 2 men she doesn't recognize. His voice is low, but there's an edge to it she hasn't heard before. I don't care what Luca thinks he's owed. The shipment stays where it is until I say otherwise. He's threatening to go to the feds. Let him. He's got more to lose than I do. One of the men shifts his weight. Boss, if he escalates, he won't. Cassian's tone cuts through the air like a blade. Luca Devereaux is a coward who hides behind lawyers and politicians. The second he realizes I'm not bluffing, he'll crawl back to whatever hole he came from. And if he doesn't, then we remind him why nobody crosses the Moretti name. The men leave. The elevator doors close behind them. Cassian stands alone in the hallway for a long moment, his shoulders tight with tension. Then he turns. His eyes lock onto Serafina's door. She freezes, suddenly certain he can see her watching through the crack. But he doesn't move toward her, doesn't call out. He just walks to his own room and disappears inside. Serafina closes her door quietly. Her heart is racing. For the first time since the wedding, she realizes something important. Cassian Moretti isn't just dangerous to his enemies. He's dangerous to everyone, including her. The next morning, there's a key on the kitchen counter. Bronze. Old. Etched with a pattern she doesn't recognize. Beside it, a note in sharp, precise handwriting. 31st floor, East Wing. Use it when you need to breathe. C. Serafina picks up the key, turns it over in her palm. She doesn't understand, but something inside her shifts, and for the first time in 5 days, she feels like maybe, there's more to Cassian Moretti than the cold, untouchable king everyone fears. She takes the elevator to the 31st floor. The key fits a door she never noticed before, tucked behind a corner where the hallway curves away from the main corridor. She turns the lock. The door opens. And everything changes. The room behind the door doesn't belong in Cassian Moretti's world. Serafina steps inside and the air changes, warmer, softer, carrying the scent of old paper and cedarwood instead of the sterile cologne and marble smell that defines the rest of the tower. Amber lamps glow against walls lined floor to ceiling with books. A fireplace crackles in the corner, flames dancing behind an iron grate. 2 velvet chairs sit angled toward each other like they're waiting for a conversation that never happened. It feels impossibly human. She walks deeper into the space, running her fingers along the spines of the books. Leather-bound classics, first editions that probably cost more than her father's funeral. Poetry collections with cracked spines and dog-eared pages, evidence that someone actually read them instead of just displaying them like trophies. On a low table beside one of the chairs, there's a photograph in a silver frame. A woman with dark hair and kind eyes standing in a garden somewhere green and far away from Chicago. She's laughing at whoever's taking the picture, her whole face lit up with joy. Serafina picks up the frame, turns it over. No inscription, no date, but she knows who it is. Cassian has her eyes. She sets the photograph down carefully, like disturbing it might break whatever spell is keeping this room separate from the violence outside its door. That's when she notices the book. It's sitting on the arm of the other chair. A worn copy of something old. The title faded almost to nothing. She picks it up. The pages fall open to a spot marked with a ribbon, and there, in elegant handwriting that slants slightly to the right, someone has written a message in the margin. For Cassian, the world is bigger than revenge. Love, mother. Serafina's chest tightens. She closes the book, puts it back exactly where she found it. And for the first time since she signed those papers, she understands that Cassian Moretti isn't just the cold, untouchable king everyone fears. He's a man who keeps his mother's handwriting preserved in the margins of old books. A man who built himself a library that feels like the opposite of everything he's become. The door behind her opens. Serafina spins around, her heart jumping into her throat. Cassian stands in the doorway, still wearing the suit from whatever business kept him out past midnight. His tie is loosened. His hair is slightly disheveled, like he's been running his hands through it. He looks tired in a way that makes him seem almost human. "You found it," he says quietly. "You left me a key." "I did." They stare at each other across the room. The firelight throws shadows across his face, softening the hard edges. "This was hers, wasn't it?" Serafina asks. "Your mother's." Cassian's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his eyes. "She died when I was 16. My father had this room sealed after the funeral. Said it was a waste of space." He steps inside, closing the door behind him. "I had it reopened 3 years ago. Haven't changed anything since." "Why?" "Because it's the only place in this entire building that feels like it belongs to something other than violence and greed." He crosses to the fireplace, staring into the flames. "She used to read to me here. Before my father decided I needed to learn the family business instead of wasting time with books." Serafina watches him carefully. This version of Cassian, quiet, reflective, almost vulnerable, Doesn't match the man who gave her a list of rules over dinner and told her she wasn't allowed to have a life. Why did you give me the key? She asks. He's silent for a long moment. When he finally speaks, his voice is barely above a whisper. Because you looked like you were suffocating, and I know what that feels like. The honesty of it catches her off guard. I'm still angry, she says. I know. I didn't ask for any of this. I know that too. Then why? Your father came to me 4 years ago, Cassian interrupts. He turns to face her, his expression carved from stone. He'd uncovered evidence that 3 of my senior captains were planning a coup. They were going to kill me, take over the syndicate, and eliminate anyone loyal to my family. Your father risked his life to bring me that information. Without him, I'd be dead. Serafina's throat tightens. He never told me. He wasn't supposed to. That was the agreement. He'd give me the intel, I'd handle the traitors quietly, and in exchange, I'd make sure your family was protected if anything happened to him. So the marriage was the only legal framework that would allow me to fulfill that promise without raising red flags. Cassian moves closer, stopping a few feet away. Federal investigators watch every dollar I spend. Rival organizations track my associates. If I just paid off your debts and set up your mother in a new apartment, people would have asked questions. They would have dug into your father's background, and they would have figured out he was the one who exposed the coup. And then what? And then they would have killed you both to send me a message. The words land like a punch. Serafina sinks into one of the velvet chairs, her legs suddenly too weak to hold her. He knew. My father knew this was the only way. Yes. And he agreed to sell me to you anyway. He didn't sell you, Cassian's voice sharpens. He saved your life. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm trapped in a marriage I never wanted, living in a cage with gold bars and being told I should be grateful for the privilege. You're alive, Cassian says flatly. Your mother is alive and cared for. You have a future instead of a funeral. So yes, Serafina, you should be grateful, because the alternative was watching your family get erased while I stood by and did nothing. She wants to scream, wants to throw something, wants to do anything that might crack through the ice surrounding both of them. Instead, she asks, what did you do to them, the men who betrayed you? Cassian's expression goes completely blank. You don't want to know. Yes, I do. No, he says quietly. You don't. Because once you know what I'm capable of, you'll never look at me the same way again. And right now, in this room, I'd like to pretend I'm something other than a monster for just a little while longer. The raw honesty in his voice steals the air from her lungs. They stand there in silence, the fire crackling between them. 2 people trapped in a cage neither of them built, but both of them have to survive. Finally, Serafina speaks. I want to go back to school. Real school. Not online classes where I'm isolated and alone. No. You can't keep me locked up forever? I can. I will. And you'll adjust. Stop saying that, her voice cracks. Stop acting like this is normal. Like I'm supposed to just accept that my entire life has been rearranged by a man I don't even know. Then get to know me. The words stop her cold. Cassian crosses to the other chair and sits, his movement slow and deliberate. You want to understand why I do the things I do? Fine. Ask. I'll answer. But in exchange, you stop pretending you're the only one who didn't ask for this. What's that supposed to mean? It means I didn't want a wife. I didn't want the responsibility of another person's safety on my conscience, and I certainly didn't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if keeping my promise to a dead man was worth the cost. He leans forward, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on hers. But here we are. So we can either keep fighting each other, or we can figure out how to survive this together. Serafina stares at him, searches his face for cracks, for lies, for anything that might prove he's just manipulating her, but all she sees is exhaustion. One question, she says finally. All right. Do you regret it? Marrying me? Cassian doesn't hesitate. Every single day. The honesty of it hurts more than she expected. But, he continues, I'd do it again, because your father saved my life, and I don't break my promises. Serafina looks away, blinking hard against the burning in her eyes. I don't know how to live like this. Neither do I. They sit in silence, the fire burning low between them, Two strangers bound together by someone else's choices and no idea how to untangle the mess. Eventually, Cassian stands. It's late. You should get some rest. Can I come back here? The question tumbles out before she can stop it. To the library. He pauses at the door. It's your space now, too. Use it whenever you want. Then he's gone, leaving Serafina alone in the room that smells like cedarwood and old promises. She stays for another hour, reading her mother's handwriting in the margins of forgotten books, trying to understand the man who kept this place preserved like a shrine to someone he loved. And slowly, against every instinct screaming at her to keep hating him, something inside her begins to shift. But Kate. The next 2 weeks pass in a strange, suspended rhythm. Serafina spends her mornings in the library, working through online coursework that feels hollow compared to real classrooms. In the afternoons, she explores the tower, though explore is generous. Most floors are locked behind security systems she can't access. The gym on the 23rd floor. The business offices on floors 12 through 18, where men in expensive suits move through hallways with the kind of purposeful silence that suggests they're not discussing quarterly reports. Cassian is a ghost. She sees him at dinner most nights, but their conversations are stilted, careful, like they're both afraid of saying the wrong thing and breaking whatever fragile truce they've built. But sometimes, late at night, when she can't sleep, she goes to the library and finds him already there. He never acknowledges her arrival, just keeps reading, a glass of whiskey untouched beside him. And Serafina sits in the other chair with her own book, and they exist in the same space without demanding anything from each other. It's the closest thing to peace she's felt since the wedding. Then everything falls apart. It starts with a phone call. Serafina is in the library halfway through an essay on international trade law when her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She almost ignores it, but something makes her answer. Hello? Serafina Vale? The voice is male, smooth, with an accent she can't place. Or should I say Serafina Moretti now? Her blood turns to ice. Who is this? A friend. Someone who's concerned about your well-being. I don't know you. Not yet, but you will. There's a smile in his voice. Tell me, does your husband know you've been researching divorce lawyers online? That's a dangerous search history to have in his household. Serafina's stomach drops. She hasn't been searching for divorce lawyers, but someone wants Cassian to think she has. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't. Just like you don't know about the offshore accounts he's been hiding from federal investigators, or the shipments coming through the port that he's been lying to his own organization about. The voice turns colder. Cassian Moretti is not the man you think he is. And when everything falls apart, you're going to need someone on your side. Stay away from me. I'm trying to help you, Serafina. When the time comes, remember that. The line goes dead. Serafina sits frozen, her phone clutched in shaking hands. Someone is watching her, tracking her online activity, and they're trying to plant doubt about Cassian in her head. She should tell him. But something stops her. Because what if it's true? What if Cassian has been lying to her about everything? She deletes the call from her history and tries to pretend it never happened. 2 days later, the pretending becomes impossible. Serafina wakes up at 3 in the morning to the sound of shouting. She throws on a robe and steps into the hallway. The noise is coming from Cassian's study, a room she's never been allowed to enter. The door is cracked open. Light spills into the dark hallway. She moves closer, her heart hammering. Don't care what Lucas says he has. Cassian's voice is sharp, lethal. He's bluffing. Boss, the photos are fake, obviously. Lucas been trying to undermine me for months. This is just his latest move. But if the feds get their hands on them, they won't. Because we're going to find whoever leaked them and make sure they never speak again. Silence. Then another voice, quieter. What about the girl? Serafina's breath catches. What about her? Cassian sounds dangerous now. Lucas' people have been asking questions about her, about the marriage. They're trying to figure out if she's leverage. She's not. With all due respect, boss, she is. You married her. That makes her a target. Then we increase security. Or we move her somewhere safer, Somewhere outside the city. No. The word cracks like a gunshot. She stays here, where I can protect her. Cassian? I said no. This conversation is over. Footsteps approach the door. Serafina stumbles backward, her heart racing. She makes it 3 steps before the door swings open. Cassian freezes when he sees her. They stare at each other in the dim hallway. His face is carved from stone, but there's something in his eyes, fear maybe, or an anger, she can't tell which. How much did you hear? He asks quietly. Enough. His jaw tightens. Go back to your room. Who's Luca? Serafina. Who is he and why is he asking questions about me? Cassian steps into the hallway, pulling the study door closed behind him. Luca Devereaux runs a rival organization. He's been trying to take over my territory for the past year, and now he's decided the best way to hurt me is through you. Because you married me. Yes. So I'm in danger because of you. You were always in danger. His voice is tight, controlled, but I'm handling it. How? By locking me in this tower and pretending I'm safe? By keeping you close enough that I can protect you. I don't need your protection, Serafina snaps. I need my life back. Your life back? Cassian's composure cracks. You think you had a life? You were drowning in debt, working at a coffee shop that paid minimum wage, and 1 semester away from dropping out because you couldn't afford tuition. That's not a life. That's survival. At least it was mine. And now you have something better. I have a cage. You have safety. You have a future. You have everything you need, except freedom. The word hangs between them like a blade. Cassian's expression goes completely blank. If you want to leave, the door is there. I'm not stopping you. Serafina's breath catches. What? You heard me. If you think you'd be better off out there, alone, unprotected, with people like Luca hunting for any weakness they can exploit, then go. I won't stop you. You're lying. I've never lied to you. You've never told me the truth either. Cassian steps closer, his eyes burning with something fierce and desperate. You want the truth? Fine. The truth is your father saved my life, and I promise to protect you. The truth is I married you because it was the only way to keep that promise without getting you killed. The truth is I wake up every morning wondering if today's the day someone figures out how important you've become and uses that against me. And the truth is... He stops, takes a breath. The truth is, I can't force you to stay. So if you want to leave, leave. But don't pretend you're making that choice because you're brave. You're making it because you're terrified of what it means to trust me. The accusation hits like a slap. I don't trust you, Serafina whispers. How can I? You've given me no reason to. I've given you everything. You've given me things. That's not the same as trust. Cassian's face twists with something that might be pain. Then it's gone, replaced by the cold mask she's come to recognize as his armor. Go to bed, Serafina. We'll talk in the morning. I'm not done. Yes, he says quietly. You are. He walks past her toward his own room, his shoulders rigid with tension. Serafina stands alone in the hallway, shaking with anger and fear and something else she doesn't have a name for. She doesn't go to bed. She goes to the library. And she starts digging through every book on the shelves, looking for answers about the man who married her and the mother who left him messages in the margins. She finds the letters at dawn. They're tucked inside a volume of poetry near the back of the room, a stack of envelopes tied with a faded ribbon. The handwriting on the front is the same elegant script from the book. To my son. Serafina shouldn't read them. She knows that. But she's already crossed so many lines. What's one more? She unties the ribbon, opens the first letter. My dearest Cassian, if you're reading this, I'm already gone, and I'm so sorry for leaving you alone in this terrible world your father has built. I tried to protect you from it, tried to show you that there's beauty and kindness beyond the violence and greed. But your father is a strong man, and I'm not strong enough to fight him. Please don't let him turn you into something hollow. Don't let this life steal your heart. Remember the library. Remember the books we read together. Remember that revenge is a poison that destroys the person who drinks it. Be better than he is. Be better than this world expects you to be. I love you more than words can say. Mother Seraphina's hands shake as she sets the letter down. There are 11 more in the stack. She reads them all. Each one is a plea, a warning, a desperate attempt by a dying woman to save her son from becoming the monster his father was grooming him to be. And every single one ends the same way: be better. By the time she finishes the last letter, tears are streaming down her face, because she understands now. Cassian didn't fail his mother's test. He's been trying to pass it for 20 years, keeping the library intact, protecting people who can't protect themselves, honoring promises made to dying men. He's been trying to be better, and nobody's ever noticed. The door opens behind her. Seraphina wipes her eyes quickly, but it's too late. Cassian stands in the doorway, still wearing yesterday's clothes. He looks like he hasn't slept. His eyes fall on the letters spread across her lap. His expression shudders completely. "Those are private," he says, his voice hollow. "I know. I'm sorry. Put them back." "Cassian." "Put them back, Seraphina." There's no anger in his voice, just exhaustion. "Please." She gathers the letters carefully, retying the ribbon exactly how she found it. She tucks them back inside the poetry book. When she turns around, Cassian is still standing in the doorway, watching her with eyes that have seen too much and forgiven too little. "She tried to save you," Seraphina says quietly, "from all of this. She failed." "Did she?" He doesn't answer. Seraphina crosses the room until she's standing directly in front of him. "You're not the monster you think you are. You don't know what I've done." "Then tell me." "No." "Why not?" "Because once you know, you'll look at me the way everyone else does. And I'm not ready for that yet." The vulnerability in his voice breaks something inside her. "I received a phone call 2 days ago," she says. "Someone claiming to be concerned about me. They said you were lying to me, that you had secrets I needed to know about." Cassian goes very still. "What else did they say?" "That I should remember they tried to help me when everything falls apart." "Luca." The name comes out like a curse. "He's trying to turn you against me." "I know." "Then why didn't you tell me immediately?" "Because I wasn't sure if I could trust you." She meets his eyes. "But I am now." Something shifts in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or relief. "The letters," Seraphina continues. "Your mother's letters. She told you the world was bigger than revenge. Do you believe that?" Cassian's throat works. "I don't know anymore." "Then let me help you figure it out." "You can't. This world I'm in, it's too dark, too violent. You don't belong here." "Maybe not. But I'm here anyway, and I'm choosing to stay." "Why?" "Because my father trusted you, because your mother believed in you, and because I think underneath all the ice and control, you're exactly who she hoped you'd become." Seraphina takes a breath. "So, stop pushing me away and let me in." Cassian stares at her like she's speaking a language he's forgotten how to understand. Then, slowly, something in him breaks. He reaches out and pulls her into his arms. Not rough, not demanding, just desperate and exhausted and completely human. Seraphina wraps her arms around him and holds on. They stand there in the library his mother built, surrounded by books and firelight, and the ghosts of promises made by people who believed they could save each other. And for the first time since the wedding, Seraphina feels like maybe, just maybe, they have a chance. The fragile peace lasts exactly 4 days. On the 5th day, Seraphina wakes up to find Cassian already gone. There's a note on the kitchen counter in his sharp handwriting. "Business. Stay inside. Don't answer the door for anyone." She crumples the note, throws it in the trash. She's tired of being told to stay inside, tired of being treated like glass that might shatter. So when her phone rings and the caller ID shows her best friend's name, Emma, who she hasn't spoken to in 3 weeks, she answers. "Hello?" "Oh my God, Seraphina!" Emma's voice is shrill with panic. "Where have you been? I've been calling for weeks." "I'm sorry, things have been crazy. Are you okay? There are rumors. People are saying you got married to some older guy." Seraphina's stomach twists. "Who's saying that?" "Everyone. It's all over social media. Someone posted a photo of you outside a chapel in a wedding dress." "What? You didn't know?" Seraphina's hands start shaking. "Send me the link." 30 seconds later, her phone buzzes with a text from Emma. A screenshot of an Instagram post from an account she doesn't recognize. The photo is grainy, taken from a distance. But it's definitely her, standing outside the chapel, in the white dress she wore on her wedding day. And beside her, climbing into the car, is Cassian. The caption reads, Chicago Mafia King. Cassian Moretti forces teenage girl into marriage to settle family debts. Full story at link in bio. The post has 47,000 likes. Serafina's vision blurs. Serafina? Emma's voice sounds far away. Are you there? I have to go. Wait, is it true? Did he force you? She hangs up. Her phone immediately starts buzzing with notifications, texts, calls. Social media mentions exploding faster than she can track them. She opens Twitter. Her name is trending. The headlines are brutal. Mafia boss caught in forced marriage scandal. 19-year-old girl trafficked into criminal empire. Federal investigation launched into Moretti syndicate. Serafina's knees give out. She sinks to the floor, her phone clutched in shaking hands. Someone leaked the story. Someone with access to photos from their wedding day. And they're painting Cassian as a monster who bought a teenage bride. The elevator dings. Cassian steps out, moving fast. His face is carved from stone. He sees her on the floor, crosses the room in 3 strides, and drops to his knees beside her. Are you hurt? She can't speak, just shakes her head. He takes her phone, scans the screen. His expression goes absolutely lethal. Luca, he says quietly. He did this? He's been planning it for weeks, waiting for the right moment to destroy my reputation and trigger a federal investigation. Cassian stands, pulling her up with him. This is an act of war. What are we going to do? We? He looks at her sharply. You're not doing anything. I'm handling this. This is about me, Cassian. My face is all over the internet, which is exactly why you need to stay out of it. His grip on her arms tightens. Luca is trying to provoke me into making a mistake. If I react emotionally, I lose. So you stay here, stay quiet, and let me fix this. By doing what? His eyes go cold. Whatever's necessary. And Serafina realizes with absolute clarity that she's watching him transform into exactly the kind of monster his mother begged him not to become. Don't, she whispers. Don't what? Don't let him turn you into the thing you've been trying not to be. Cassian's jaw tightens. You don't understand how this world works. Then explain it to me. There's no time. Make time. She grabs his face, forcing him to look at her. You said you wanted to be better than your father. Prove it. Don't go to war over this. Fight him a different way. There is no other way. Yes, there is. We expose the truth. We show people that the marriage wasn't forced, that my father made the deal to protect me. We take away Luca's ammunition before he can use it. Cassian stares at her like she's lost her mind. You want to go public? Tell the world about your father's involvement with the syndicate? I want to tell the truth before Luca's lies destroy everything. The truth will destroy you. Federal investigators will come after your mother. Luca's people will target you even harder. You'll be painted as a collaborator. I'm already being painted as a victim. Her voice cracks. At least this way, I get to choose the narrative. Cassian searches her face, looking for cracks, for doubt, for any sign that she doesn't understand what she's offering to sacrifice. But Serafina has never been more certain of anything in her life. If we do this, Cassian says slowly, there's no going back. You'll be tied to me publicly, permanently. Every crime, every investigation, every headline, you'll be in the center of it. I know. And you're willing to accept that? I'm willing to fight for the truth, even if it costs me everything. Something shifts in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or respect. All right, he says quietly. Then we do this together. Serafina nods. And somewhere in the city, Luca Devereaux makes his next move, one that will push them both past the point of no return. The attack comes at midnight. Serafina is in the library drafting a statement with Cassian and his lawyers when the lights go out. Emergency backup generators kick in immediately, bathing everything in red. Cassian's phone buzzes. He answers, listens. His face goes white. Get her to the safe room, he says to someone on the other end. Then to Serafina, "We need to move. Now." "What's happening?" "Luca's people are in the building." The words barely register before the sound of gunfire tears through the tower. Cassian grabs her hand and runs. They burst into the hallway. Men in tactical gear are already flooding the floor from the emergency stairs. Cassian's security team returns fire, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Cassian pulls her toward a hidden panel in the wall, presses his palm to a scanner. A door slides open, revealing a narrow stairwell going down. "Move." They descend 3 floors before the stairwell shakes with an explosion. Serafina stumbles. Cassian catches her, keeps them moving. They reach a reinforced door. Cassian enters a code. The lock disengages. Inside is a room built like a vault. Steel walls, no windows, enough supplies to last a week. Cassian shoves her inside. "Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone except me." "Where are you going?" "To end this." "Cassian." He cups her face in his hands, kisses her forehead. "If I don't come back, there's a packet in the safe with instructions. Follow them exactly." "You're coming back." "Serafina, you're coming back." Her voice breaks. "You promised my father you'd protect me. You can't do that if you're dead." Something fierce and desperate flashes across his face. Then he kisses her, hard and fast and absolutely certain. "Lock the door behind me." He's gone before she can respond. Serafina stands alone in the safe room, listening to gunfire and shouting echoing through the walls. And she makes a decision that will change everything. She's not hiding anymore. She opens the door and runs straight into the war that's been hunting her since the day she signed those papers. The hallway is chaos painted in red emergency lighting and gunpowder smoke. Serafina runs toward the sound of gunfire, her heart slamming against her ribs so hard she can feel it in her throat. Every instinct screams at her to turn back, to lock herself in the safe room like Cassian ordered, but her feet keep moving forward because hiding isn't going to save anyone. She rounds the corner and nearly collides with one of Cassian's security team, a man named Marcus she's seen stationed outside the penthouse. He's bleeding from a gash above his eye, his weapon raised. "Mrs. Moretti, get back!" The rest of his sentence disappears in the crack of gunfire. Marcus shoves her against the wall, his body blocking hers as bullets tear through the space where she was standing. Return fire erupts from somewhere down the hall. Marcus leans out, fires 3 times, then grabs Serafina's arm. "We need to move, now!" He pulls her toward the main floor, keeping her behind him. They make it 10 feet before a door explodes open and 2 men in black tactical gear burst through. Marcus doesn't hesitate. He fires twice. Both men drop. Serafina's ears are ringing. The smell of blood and cordite burns her nostrils. This isn't a movie. This isn't some abstract concept of violence. This is real. Bodies on marble floors, men dying in hallways, her world tearing itself apart in real time. "Where's Cassian?" she gasps. 30th floor. He's holding them off with the primary team." "Take me to him." "Ma'am, my orders are to get you out. I don't care about your orders." She yanks her arm free. "Take me to him, or I go alone." Marcus stares at her for half a second, weighing options he doesn't have time to consider. Then he curses under his breath and moves toward the emergency stairs. They climb. The stairwell echoes with shouts and gunfire from floors above and below. Serafina's lungs burn. Her legs shake. She keeps climbing. They reach the 30th floor. Marcus opens the door a crack, peers through, then signals her to stay low. The floor is a war zone. Overturned furniture creates makeshift barricades. Glass from shattered windows glitters across the floor like ice. Bullet holes punch through walls in constellations of violence. And in the center of it all, behind a desk flipped on its side, Cassian fights with the cold precision of someone who's done this before. He fires, drops, rolls to new cover. 3 men advance on his position. He takes out 2 before they even realize where the shots are coming from. The third gets close enough that Cassian has to use his hands. A brutal, efficient sequence that ends with the man's neck at an angle necks aren't meant to bend. Serafina's stomach lurches. Cassian stands, reloading, and that's when he sees her. His face goes white. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Helping. I told you to stay in the safe room, and I told you I'm done hiding." An explosion rocks the building. The floor tilts. Serafina stumbles. Cassian catches her, pulls her down behind the barricade. "They're using explosives," he says, his voice tight. "They're not trying to capture the building. They're trying to bring it down. With us inside? Luca doesn't care about collateral damage. He just wants me dead. Cassian's eyes are hard, calculating. We need to get to the emergency evac point on the roof. It's our only way out. What about your men? They know the protocol. Anyone who can meets us there. Another explosion. Closer this time. The walls shake, dust rains from the ceiling. Cassian grabs her hand. Move. They run. The building groans around them like a dying animal. Emergency alarms shriek. Sprinkler systems activate, turning the smoke-filled air into a choking mist. They reach the stairwell leading to the roof. Cassian kicks the door open. 3 men wait on the landing above. Not Cassian's men, Luca's. Cassian raises his weapon, fires, takes out one before the others return fire. He shoves Serafina back through the door, rounds on the remaining attackers. The fight is vicious and close quarters. Cassian moves like violence is a language he's fluent in, brutal, efficient, without hesitation. But there are 2 of them, and he's already bleeding from a wound she didn't notice before. Dark blood soaking through his shirt near his ribs. One of the men gets past him, lunges for Serafina. She doesn't think, just reacts. Grabs a piece of debris from the floor, a chunk of broken concrete, and swings it as hard as she can. It connects with the side of his head. He drops. Serafina stares at the unconscious man, at the blood on the concrete in her hands, at what she just did. Cassian finishes the other attacker and turns to her. His expression is unreadable. You okay? She nods. She's lying. Nothing about this is okay. Then let's go. They climb the final flight to the roof access. Cassian enters a code. The door doesn't open. He tries again. Nothing. Luca locked us out. His voice is flat, emotionless. The tone of someone who's already calculating their next move and doesn't like the options. There has to be another way. There isn't. The roof was the only evac point that doesn't require going through the main floors, and those are completely compromised. So we're trapped. Cassian doesn't answer, which is an answer in itself. He pulls out his phone, dials. It rings 4 times before someone picks up. Jonathan, I need you to listen very carefully. His voice is steady despite the blood and smoke and chaos. Activate the red line protocol. Everything. Transfer authority to the backup teams. And make sure the documents in the 3rd safe are filed with federal investigators by morning. Boss, if we do that, just do it. He hangs up, looks at Serafina. No matter what happens in the next hour, you're going to be protected. I made sure of it. What are you talking about? The Red Line Protocol transfers all my legitimate business holdings to you. The documents in the safe detail every illegal operation Luca's been running for the past 5 years. Trafficking, money laundering, connections to corrupt politicians. It's enough to bury him and everyone in his organization. Serafina's blood goes cold. You're talking like you're not going to survive this. I'm talking like I'm being realistic. No. She grabs his jacket. We're getting out of here. Both of us. Serafina, I didn't come this far to watch you die playing hero. Something shifts in his expression. He cups her face in his bloody hands. You were never supposed to be part of this world. You were supposed to survive it. The words echo what he told her weeks ago in a different lifetime before everything fell apart. Plans change, she whispers. He kisses her, hard and desperate and tasting like smoke and copper, like goodbye. Then he pulls away, grabs her hand, and runs toward the only option they have left. Down into the burning building, straight into the heart of the war. Saw it. They make it to the 27th floor before they run into Luca Devereaux. He's standing in the middle of the corridor with 4 armed men flanking him, looking completely at ease despite the chaos around him. Tall, lean, wearing a suit that probably cost more than the weapons his men are holding. Dark hair slicked back. Cold eyes that assess Serafina like she's a problem he's about to solve. Cassian? His voice is smooth, cultured, European accent, French maybe. I was hoping we'd get a chance to talk before this all ends. Cassian's weapon is already raised. You have 3 seconds to walk away. Or what, you'll shoot me? Luca smiles. We both know you're outgunned, 4-1, and that's assuming you can even aim straight with that wound in your side. I've beaten worse odds. Not tonight. Luca's smile widens. Tonight you lose everything. Your empire, your reputation, your life. His eyes shift to Serafina. And her. Cassian's finger tightens on the trigger. Ah. Luca holds up a hand. Before you do something you'll regret, you should know, I'm not the one who leaked your wedding photos to the media. The statement hangs in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Cassian's expression doesn't change. You're lying. Am I? Think about it. Who had access to those photos? They were taken inside a private chapel with no media present. The only people there were your men, your lawyers, and... He pauses. Well, your wife's family. Serafina's stomach drops. No, she breathes. Luca's smile turns vicious. Your mother has been very cooperative, Mrs. Moretti. It's amazing what people will do when they're desperate. A little money, a promise of safety, and suddenly she's willing to sell out the man who married her daughter. You're lying. But even as Serafina says it, pieces are clicking into place. Her mother's refusal to answer calls for weeks. The way she sounded fragile and guilty during their one conversation. The fact that the leaked photos included angles only someone at the wedding could have captured. Am I? Luca pulls out his phone. Swipes. Turns the screen toward her. It's a bank statement. Her mother's name at the top. A deposit dated 2 weeks ago. $500,000. The room tilts. She didn't want to, Luca continues conversationally. She cried quite a lot about it, actually. Kept saying you'd never forgive her. But when I explained that her daughter was trapped in a forced marriage with a violent criminal and that I could help free you, well, maternal instinct is a powerful motivator. She thought she was saving me, Serafina whispers. The words taste like ash. She thought she was doing the right thing. And you know what? Maybe she was. Luca's eyes are cruel, because now the whole world knows what kind of monster Cassian Moretti really is. A man who bought a teenage bride to settle debts. Federal investigators are already building a case. By morning, your husband will be arrested for trafficking, racketeering, and half a dozen other charges. Cassian hasn't moved. His weapon is still trained on Luca's chest, but his face has gone completely blank. The thing is, Luca continues, I don't actually need to kill you, Cassian. I just need to destroy you. Take away your power, your reputation, your freedom, and I've already done that. He gestures to the burning building around them. This is just insurance, making sure you don't find a way to wriggle out like you always do. You made a mistake, Cassian says quietly. Did I? You assumed I care more about my reputation than I do about her. Cassian's voice is ice and razors. You targeted the wrong weakness. He fires. Luca's men return fire immediately. Cassian grabs Serafina and throws them both through the nearest door as bullets shred the air where they were standing. They land hard in what looks like an office. Cassian kicks the door shut, shoves a desk against it. It won't hold long. We need to move. He's breathing hard, blood soaking through his shirt faster now. You're hit. I'm fine. You're bleeding. I said I'm fine. He grabs her shoulders, forces her to look at him. Your mother made a choice. A stupid, terrible choice. But she did it because she loves you. You can hate her for it later. Right now, we survive. How? Luca has men on every floor. The building is on fire. And even if we make it out, you're going to be arrested for crimes you didn't commit. Then we make sure Luca goes down with me. How? Cassian's eyes are hard. The evidence I had Jonathan file with the feds? It doesn't just implicate Luca. It implicates everyone he's worked with. Politicians, police, federal agents on his payroll. By morning, half the city's leadership will be under investigation. That's not enough to clear your name. No. But it's enough to drag him into the fire with me. The door shudders under the impact of something heavy. Luca's men, trying to break through. Cassian moves to the window, looks down. They're 27 floors up. No fire escape. No ledge. There's a maintenance access shaft 3 doors down, he says. If we can reach it, we can get to the parking garage. And if we can't? He doesn't answer, just takes her hand and moves toward the back of the office. They slip out through a side door into another corridor. The building groans around them, the structure compromised by explosives and fire. Smoke makes it hard to see more than 10 feet ahead. They make it to the maintenance shaft. Cassian wrenches the door open. Inside is a ladder descending into darkness. You first, he says. You're hurt, which is why I'll be slower. Go! Serafina climbs down. The shaft is narrow, dark, stinking of oil and rust. Her hands slip on the rungs. Below her, there's nothing but black. Above, she hears Cassian following. His breathing is labored. She can hear him struggling. Cassian? Keep moving. They descend. 5 floors. 10. Serafina's arms shake with exhaustion. Her palms are bleeding from gripping the rusted metal. Then Cassian's hand slips. She hears him fall. Hears the sickening thud of his body hitting the landing 1 floor below. Cassian! She drops the last few feet, lands beside him. He's conscious, but barely. The wound in his side is bleeding worse now, his shirt soaked through. Get up! She tries to pull him to his feet. We're almost there. Go without me. Absolutely not. Serafina, I said no. Her voice cracks. You don't get to save me and then die here. That's not how this ends. He looks at her with eyes that have seen too much and forgiven too little. You're stronger than you think. Then help me prove it. Get up. He does. Barely. She supports as much of his weight as she can. They move toward the exit. The garage is chaos, cars burning, bodies on the ground, Cassian's men, Luca's men. Impossible to tell which is which in the smoke and darkness. A black SUV sits near the exit ramp, engine running, one of Cassian's escape vehicles, left as part of the evacuation protocol. They stumble toward it. Serafina gets Cassian into the passenger seat, then runs to the driver's side. She's never driven a car this size. Doesn't matter. She throws it into gear and guns the engine. The SUV roars up the exit ramp. Behind them, the building shudders. Another explosion. Glass rains down from above. They burst onto the street. Sirens wail from every direction. Police, fire trucks, ambulances. The whole city responding to the war that just tore through one of its tallest buildings. Serafina drives. No destination, just away. Cassian's head lolls against the window. His breathing is shallow. Stay with me, she says. Please. He doesn't respond. She pulls over 2 blocks away behind an abandoned warehouse, grabs her phone, calls 911. I need an ambulance. She chokes on the word. My husband's been shot. We're at... Cassian's hand closes around her wrist. No. You need a hospital. No hospitals. They'll arrest me the second I walk through the door. You're dying. Not yet. He forces himself upright. There's a place, safe house, 40 minutes outside the city. Call Jonathan. He'll give you the address. Cassian, do it. She does. Jonathan answers on the first ring, gives her coordinates, tells her there's a doctor on standby. Serafina drives. The safe house is exactly what it sounds like, a nondescript building in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by fields and darkness. A man meets them at the door, older, gray-haired, wearing surgical scrubs under a jacket. He takes one look at Cassian and curses, "Get him inside!" Between the two of them, they half-carry Cassian to a room set up like a makeshift operating theater. The doctor cuts away his shirt, exposing the wound. It's bad. Worse than Serafina thought. You need to leave, the doctor says. I'm staying. This isn't going to be pretty. I don't care. The doctor looks at Cassian, who nods weakly. Fine, but don't pass out on me. I don't have time to treat 2 patients. Serafina watches as the doctor works, cleaning the wound, extracting the bullet, stitching Cassian back together with hands that have clearly done this before. Cassian doesn't make a sound, just stares at the ceiling with eyes that have gone somewhere far away. Finally, the doctor steps back. He'll live, but he needs rest. Real rest. No more running around playing vigilante. How long before he can move? At least 48 hours. Longer if you want him to actually heal. 48 hours. 2 days while the city burns and federal investigators close in and Luca Devereaux consolidates power. The doctor leaves. Serafina sits beside Cassian's bed, holding his hand. Your mother, he says quietly. You should call her. I can't. She was trying to protect you. By destroying you. She didn't know what she was doing. Luca manipulated her. That doesn't make it okay. No, but it makes it human. He squeezes her hand weakly. Don't hate her. She made a mistake. We all have. Serafina's throat tightens. You're too forgiving. I'm practical. Hate is expensive. And right now, we can't afford it. They sit in silence. Outside, dawn is breaking. The first light of a day that will bring federal investigations and arrest warrants and the systematic destruction of everything Cassian spent his life building. What happens now? Serafina asks. Now we figure out how to survive what's coming. He looks at her. Together. Together? She echoes. But even as she says it, she knows the truth. The man lying in this bed isn't the untouchable king of Chicago anymore. He's human, fallible, bleeding. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Serafina realizes she's not the one who needs saving. He is. The call comes 6 hours later. Serafina is dozing in a chair beside Cassian's bed when her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She almost ignores it, but something makes her answer. Hello? Mrs. Moretti. The voice is female, professional. This is Special Agent Rachel Chen with the FBI. I need to speak with your husband. Serafina's blood turns to ice. He's not available. I'm aware of the incident at the Moretti Tower last night. I'm also aware that Mr. Moretti left the scene before law enforcement arrived. That makes him a fugitive. He's the victim. Luca Devereaux tried to kill him. Mr. Devereaux has already been taken into custody. He's cooperating fully with our investigation. The words hit like a punch. Cooperating. He's provided extensive documentation of criminal activities conducted by the Moretti Syndicate over the past decade, including evidence that your marriage to Mr. Moretti was part of a human trafficking operation. That's a lie. We have testimony from your mother, Mrs. Moretti. She's confirmed that you were coerced into this marriage to settle your father's debts. Serafina's vision blurs. My mother doesn't understand. She understands that her daughter was 19 years old and forced to marry a man 15 years older who runs a criminal empire. That's trafficking, Mrs. Moretti, and we take it very seriously. I wasn't forced. I chose. You can't consent to trafficking. The law is very clear on that. Agent Chen's voice softens slightly. I know this is difficult, but we're prepared to offer you protection. Immunity in exchange for your testimony against your husband. We can keep you safe from retaliation. I don't need protection from him. Mrs. Moretti, Ashram, I need protection from you. Serafina's voice shakes. From Luca Devereaux and every corrupt politician and police officer on his payroll. From a system that's more interested in destroying my husband than stopping actual criminals. Cassian Moretti is an actual criminal. So is Luca Devereaux. But he's the one cooperating, isn't he? He's the one cutting deals while my husband bleeds out because he refused to become the monster everyone wants him to be. Silence on the other end of the line. Where is he? Agent Chen asks quietly. I don't know. You're protecting him. I'm protecting the man I married. There's a difference. Not in the eyes of the law. Then the law is wrong. Serafina hangs up. Her hands are shaking so hard she nearly drops the phone. Cassian is awake, watching her with eyes that have seen this coming from the beginning. They want you to testify against me, he says. Not a question. Yes. And? I told them no. Serafina, don't. She stands, paces the small room. Don't tell me I should take the deal. Don't tell me I should save myself. I'm done running. This isn't running. This is survival. No. Survival is what we do together. She stops, faces him. You said your mother told you the world was bigger than revenge. Well, maybe it's also bigger than sacrifice. Maybe we both get to survive this. That's not how this works. Then we change how it works. Cassian stares at her. Then, slowly, something shifts in his expression. Not hope. Hope is too fragile for what they're facing, but something close to it. Determination. All right, he says quietly. Then we fight. How? The same way Luca is. We cooperate. We give them everything we have on every corrupt official, every dirty deal, every crime we can prove that doesn't implicate us directly. We bury the system that protected him and hope something better rises from the ashes. That's a suicide mission. Maybe. But it's the only move we have left. Serafina sits back down, takes his hand. Then we make it together. Outside, police sirens wail in the distance, coming closer. Time is running out, and the most dangerous game either of them has ever played is about to begin. T-Kiss. The next 24 hours are a blur of phone calls and strategy sessions. Jonathan arrives with 3 lawyers and enough paperwork to bury a small country. They lay it all out on the table. Every piece of evidence Cassian has been quietly gathering for years. Names, dates, financial records. A roadmap of corruption that runs through Chicago's government like cancer through bone. If we file this, there's no going back, one of the lawyers says. You'll be burning every bridge you've ever built. Good, Cassian says. Burn them all. They work through the night. Serafina sits beside Cassian, watching him dismantle the empire his father built and he inherited. Every signature, every document, every piece of evidence is another nail in the coffin of the world he's known his entire life. By dawn, it's done. The lawyers leave to file the paperwork with federal investigators. Jonathan stays behind. The media is going to crucify you, he says quietly. Both of you. Let them, Serafina says, as long as the truth comes out. The truth is complicated. People don't like complicated. They like heroes and villains. Then we'll be the villains who told the truth, she looks at Cassian. At least we'll be honest. Jonathan nods slowly. For what it's worth, I think you're both insane, but I respect the hell out of you for trying. He leaves. Cassian and Serafina sit alone in the safe house, listening to the silence. I need to tell you something, Cassian says finally. Serafina's stomach tightens. What? Your mother. She called Jonathan this morning. She wants to talk to you. I can't, I know, but she's going to keep trying. And eventually, you'll have to decide whether you can forgive her or not. She betrayed us. She made a mistake. Cassian's voice is gentle. A terrible, destructive mistake. But she made it because she loves you. That doesn't excuse it, but it explains it. Serafina's eyes burn. How can you be so calm about this? Because I understand what it's like to be manipulated by people who are better at this game than you are. Luca used her fear against her, just like he's using the system against us now. I'm not ready to forgive her. You don't have to be. But when you are, don't wait too long. Life is shorter than we think. The words hang between them like a benediction. Serafina's phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. They're coming for you. Both of you. Run. A friend. She shows it to Cassian. His jaw tightens. We don't have friends left. Then who? The door explodes inward. Armed men pour through, federal agents in tactical gear, weapons raised, shouting commands that overlap into white noise. Cassian doesn't fight, just raises his hands slowly, carefully. Don't shoot, he says quietly. We're unarmed. The lead agent, a man in his 50s with cold eyes, steps forward. Cassian Moretti, you're under arrest for racketeering, money laundering, and human trafficking. You have the right to remain silent. I waive my rights. I'm prepared to cooperate fully. The agent blinks. Excuse me? I have information on criminal activities conducted by multiple organizations operating in Chicago. I'm willing to provide testimony and evidence in exchange for immunity for my wife, who had no knowledge of or involvement in any illegal activities. That's not how this works. That's exactly how this works. You want to take down corruption? I'll give you names, dates, financial records, everything you need to prosecute dozens of cases, but she... He nods toward Serafina, walks away clean. The agent looks at Serafina, then back at Cassian. We'll discuss terms at the federal building. No, we discuss terms now, or I don't say another word without my lawyers present, and you spend the next 5 years trying to build a case while everyone I could have given you disappears. The agent's expression hardens, but he pulls out his phone, makes a call, steps away to confer with someone. When he comes back, his face is carefully neutral. Conditional immunity for Mrs. Moretti pending review of your cooperation and her testimony. Final decision rests with the U.S. attorney. That's not good enough. It's the best you're going to get. The agent's voice is flat. Take it, or we arrest you both right now and sort it out later. Cassian looks at Serafina. Take it. No. Serafina, I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice. I always have a choice. She turns to the agent. I'm staying with my husband. Whatever happens, we face it together. The agent shakes his head. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. They're cuffed. Led outside to waiting vehicles. The sun is rising over fields that stretch to the horizon, painting everything gold and amber. Serafina looks back at the safe house one last time. Then they're driven away, toward a future neither of them can predict, and both of them will have to fight for with everything they have left. And somewhere in Chicago, Luca Devereaux watches the news coverage of their arrest and smiles. Because he won. Or so he thinks. The federal holding facility smells like disinfectant and desperation. Serafina sits in an interrogation room with walls the color of old bruises, fluorescent lights humming overhead like angry insects. Her wrists ache from the cuffs they finally removed 20 minutes ago. Across the table, Special Agent Rachel Chen watches her with eyes that have seen 1,000 liars and learned to spot the truth hiding underneath. You understand that by refusing immunity, you're facing potential charges as an accessory to racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy, Chen says. Her voice is calm, clinical. That's 20 years a minimum if convicted. I understand. Then help me understand why you're protecting him. I'm not protecting him. I'm standing with him. There's a difference. Chen leans back in her chair. Your mother says you were coerced into this marriage, that you had no choice. My mother was manipulated by Luca Devereaux into believing something that wasn't true. Was it? Chen pulls out a folder, opens it, slides a photograph across the table. This is you on your wedding day, 19 years old, no family present, armed guards at every exit. You're telling me that looks like a choice? Serafina stares at the photo. She barely recognizes the girl in the white dress, eyes wide with fear and confusion. It wasn't the choice I would have made for myself, she says quietly. But it was the choice my father made to protect me, and Cassian honored that promise. By forcing you into marriage. By keeping me alive. Serafina meets Chen's eyes. You want to know the truth? Fine. My father worked for the Moretti Syndicate. He uncovered evidence of a coup that would have gotten Cassian killed. In exchange for that information, Cassian promised to protect my family after my father died. The marriage was the legal framework that made that protection possible without drawing attention from people who wanted us dead. People like who? People like Luca Devereaux, who's been trying to take over Chicago's criminal enterprises for years, who orchestrated the attack on the Moretti Tower, who manipulated my mother into betraying us because he knew it was the fastest way to destroy Cassian's reputation. Chen's expression doesn't change. Luca Devereaux has provided us with extensive evidence of criminal activity, so evidence he's been sitting on for years. Why do you think he's cooperating now? Serafina leans forward. Because he knows you'll give him immunity in exchange for testimony against Cassian. He gets to eliminate his competition and walk away clean. You're not prosecuting criminals, Agent Chen. You're being used to fight someone else's war. That's a very convenient narrative. Then explain why Cassian filed hundreds of pages of evidence against corrupt politicians, police officers, and federal agents on Luca's payroll hours before you arrested him. If he was trying to protect his empire, why would he burn it to the ground? Chen's eyes narrow. What evidence? Ask your supervisors. The document should have been delivered to the U.S. Attorney's Office this morning. Silence. Chen stands abruptly, walks to the door, speaks to someone in the hallway. Serafina can't hear the conversation, but she sees Chen's posture change, surprise, then confusion, then something that might be anger. When Chen returns, her face is carefully neutral. We're suspending this interview pending review of new evidence. You'll remain in custody. Where's Cassian? That's not your concern right now. He's injured. He needs medical attention. He's being treated. Chen pauses at the door. For what it's worth, Mrs. Moretti, I hope you're right about him. Because if you're wrong, you've just destroyed your life for a man who doesn't deserve it. The door closes with a hollow clang that sounds too much like a cell door locking. Barbassine. Serafina is moved to a holding cell 3 hours later. Small, gray, with a narrow cot and a toilet that doesn't have a seat. The bars are cold against her palms when she grips them, staring out at the empty corridor. She's never been in a cage before, not like this. The penthouse was gilded, luxurious, but still a cage in its own way. This is different. This is real. Concrete and steel, and the knowledge that she can't walk away even if she wanted to. Footsteps echo down the hall. A guard appears, unlocking the cell door. You have a visitor. Who? Attorney. You get 15 minutes. Serafina expects Jonathan. Instead, a woman walks in, mid-50s, silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, wearing a suit that screams power and money. She carries a briefcase that probably cost more than Serafina's college tuition. Mrs. Moretti, I'm Catherine Walsh. I've been retained to represent you. By who? Your husband. Walsh sits on the cot like it's a throne. We don't have much time, so I'll be direct. The evidence Mr. Moretti provided to federal investigators has created significant chaos. 3 sitting congressmen are under investigation. A federal judge, 12 police officers, and several agents within the FBI itself. Serafina's stomach drops. How bad is it? For them, career-ending. For you, complicated. Walsh opens her briefcase, pulls out documents. The U.S. attorney wants to cut a deal. Full immunity for both you and your husband in exchange for testimony against everyone implicated in the evidence he provided. What's the catch? The catch is that Luca Devereaux is offering them the same thing, and his testimony is cleaner. No complications about forced marriages or trafficking allegations. He's positioning himself as the reformed criminal trying to make things right. That's bullshit. He's a trafficker. Can you prove it? Serafina opens her mouth, closes it. Exactly, Walsh says. Luca's been careful. His operations are layered, insulated. The evidence your husband has focuses on corruption, not Luca's criminal enterprises. It's devastating to the system, but it doesn't necessarily destroy Luca himself. So what do? We give them something they want more than Luca's cooperation. Walsh leans forward. We give them a witness who can testify to being directly victimized by the system of corruption your husband's evidence exposes. Someone sympathetic, young, articulate. Someone the jury will believe. You want me to testify. I want you to tell your story. The truth. Not the sanitized version Luca's been feeding the media, but the real one. How your father was killed by people inside the Moretti organization who were working with corrupt officials. How Cassian uncovered the conspiracy and protected you from the same people who murdered your father. How Luca manipulated your mother into betraying you because destroying Cassian's reputation was the only way to take over his territory. They'll never believe me. They will if we can corroborate your testimony with evidence. Walsh pulls out another document. This is a deposition from a man named Marcus Reeves, one of Cassian's security team. He's willing to testify about the attack on the Moretti Tower, including communications he intercepted proving Luca ordered the assault. Serafina's hands shake as she takes the document. Marcus survived? Barely. He's in federal protection right now, but he's willing to come forward if you do. Why? Because he believes in what Cassian is trying to do. And because he thinks you're the only person who can make a jury see the difference between a criminal and a man trying to escape the world he was born into. Serafina reads the deposition. Marcus's words are direct, unflinching. He describes the attack in brutal detail, the explosives, the casualties, the orders he heard over Luca's communications network. This could work, she whispers. It will work, if you're willing to fight. Serafina looks up, meets Walsh's eyes. When do we start? Now. Walsh stands. I've already filed motions for your release pending trial. The judge will rule within 24 hours. In the meantime, you need to prepare, because when you walk into that courtroom, Luca's lawyers are going to try to destroy you. They'll paint you as a willing accomplice, a gold digger who knew exactly what she was getting into, a liar trying to save her criminal husband. Let them try. Walsh almost smiles. Good. Because the only way we win this is if you refuse to break. Serafina is released on bond 18 hours later. She walks out of the federal building into a wall of cameras and shouting reporters. Microphones thrust toward her face. Questions fired like bullets. Mrs. Moretti, did your husband force you into marriage? Are you cooperating with federal investigators? What do you say to allegations that you're complicit in criminal activities? Walsh is beside her immediately, clearing a path through the chaos. A car waits at the curb. They climb inside. The driver pulls away from the crowd. Get used to that, Walsh says. It's only going to get worse. Where's Cassian? Still in custody. The judge denied his bail request. Too much flight risk. I need to see him. You can't. Not until the trial. Any contact between you could be construed as witness tampering. Serafina's chest tightens. How long? The trial is scheduled to begin in 3 weeks. Until then, you're on your own. The car takes them to a hotel downtown, not the Moretti Tower, which is still a crime scene, but somewhere anonymous and safe. Walsh walks her to the room, hands her a phone. Burner? Untraceable. If you need to reach me, use this. Don't use your personal phone for anything except approved communications. And don't talk to anyone, not reporters, not friends, not family, without clearing it with me first. What about my mother? Walsh's expression softens slightly. That's your call. But if you do speak to her, be careful. Anything you say could be subpoenaed. She leaves. Serafina stands alone in the hotel room, staring at the burner phone in her hand. Her mother has called 47 times in the past 2 days. Each call went to voicemail. Each message is some variation of the same thing. I'm sorry, please call me back. I was trying to protect you. Serafina deletes them all. Then she calls the one person who might actually have answers. Jonathan picks up on the second ring. Serafina, are you safe? For now. I need information. What kind? Everything you have on Luca Devereaux. His operations, his associates, his weaknesses. Anything that could prove he's not the reformed criminal he's pretending to be. Silence. Then, that's dangerous. So is doing nothing. If Luca finds out you're digging into his background, he already tried to kill us. What's he gonna do? Try harder? Jonathan exhales slowly. Give me 24 hours. I'll see what I can find. Thank you. Serafina. His voice is serious. Be careful. Luca didn't get where he is by being stupid. If you're planning something, make sure you're ready for the consequences. I'm ready. She hangs up before he can argue. Bank. The information arrives the next morning via encrypted email. Serafina opens it on a laptop Walsh provided. Wiped clean, no traceable history. The files inside are extensive. Financial records, shipping manifests, photographs of Luca with people who shouldn't exist in the same room, politicians, law enforcement, figures from international criminal organizations, and buried in the middle, a name that makes her blood run cold. Victor Vale, her father. The file is dated 8 years ago. A report detailing a meeting between Luca Devereaux and Victor Vale regarding financial consultation services. No specifics, just vague language that could mean anything, or everything. Serafina reads it 3 times, then she calls Jonathan. The file on my father, what does it mean? I was hoping you wouldn't find that. Jonathan? He sighs. Your father didn't just work for Cassian. Before that, he worked for Luca. He was Luca's accountant for 2 years before he switched sides. The room tilts. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because it was complicated. Your father realized what Luca was doing, the trafficking, the corruption, and he couldn't stomach it anymore. So he went to Cassian with evidence that could take down Luca's entire operation. In exchange, Cassian promised to protect your family. And Luca found out. Eventually, that's why your father was so paranoid in his final years. He knew Luca would come after him eventually. Did Luca kill him? Silence. Jonathan, did Luca kill my father? We don't have proof. But the cancer your father had, it was aggressive, unusual. The kind of thing that could be induced with the right chemicals if you knew what you were doing. Serafina's hand shakes so hard she nearly drops the phone. You think Luca poisoned him? I think Luca doesn't leave loose ends, and your father was a very dangerous loose end. The pieces click into place. The rushed timeline of her father's illness, the way he deteriorated so quickly, the desperation in his final weeks to secure protection for his family. He knew. He knew Luca was killing him, and he used his last months to make sure Serafina and her mother would be safe. I need to prove it, Serafina says. You can't. It's been 2 years. Any evidence is long gone. Then I'll find another way. Serafina, he murdered my father, Jonathan, and now he's using my mother's guilt and fear to destroy the man who tried to protect us. I'm not letting him win. She hangs up, sits in the silence of the hotel room, her mind racing. Luca thinks he's won. He's positioned himself as the hero, Cassian as the villain, and Serafina as the tragic victim caught between them. But he made a mistake. He underestimated her, and she's about to make him pay for it. The next 2 weeks are a blur of preparation. Walsh drills her on testimony, how to answer questions, how to stay calm under cross-examination, how to make the jury see her as a person instead of a pawn in someone else's game. They're going to try to rattle you, Walsh says during one particularly brutal practice session. They'll imply you're lying, that you're in love with Cassian and willing to say anything to protect him, that you're too young and naive to understand what you're involved in. Let them. It won't feel like let them when you're on the stand and a lawyer is calling you a liar to your face. I've survived worse. Walsh studies her for a long moment. You have, haven't you? Serafina doesn't answer. The trial begins on a Monday morning in late October. The courtroom is packed. Media in the gallery. Luca's people scattered throughout, watching with predatory interest. Federal prosecutors at one table, Walsh and her team at another. And in the defendant's area, separated by armed guards, Cassian. Serafina sees him for the first time in 3 weeks and her heart cracks. He looks thinner, older. The wound in his side has healed but left him moving more carefully. There are shadows under his eyes that weren't there before. But when their eyes meet across the courtroom, something passes between them. A promise. We survived this together. The judge enters. Everyone rises. The United States versus Cassian Moretti. Please be seated. The prosecution calls their first witness. Luca Devereaux walks to the stand like he owns the room. He's dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his expression solemn and cooperative. The picture of a reformed criminal trying to do the right thing. The prosecutor, a woman named Sandra Mills with sharp eyes and sharper questions, guides him through his testimony. Mr. Devereaux, can you describe your relationship with the defendant? We were competitors in the same industry. Mr. Moretti controlled significant territory in Chicago. I operated in adjacent areas. And did that competition ever turn violent? On his end, yes. Mr. Moretti has a reputation for eliminating threats. I've lost several associates to his organization over the years. Including the incident at the Moretti Tower 3 weeks ago? That was self-defense. My people were responding to intelligence that Mr. Moretti was planning to attack our operations. We acted to protect ourselves. It's a lie so smooth, it almost sounds like truth. Walsh stands. Objection. The witness is testifying to events he has no direct knowledge of. Sustained. Mr. Devereaux, please limit your testimony to facts within your personal knowledge. Luca nods, unfazed. Of course, Your Honor. Mills continues. Mr. Devereaux, are you familiar with the defendant's wife, Serafina Moretti? I am. I became aware of her situation through mutual acquaintances. What situation? That she was forced into marriage with Mr. Moretti to settle her family's debts. I reached out to her mother to offer assistance. What kind of assistance? Financial support, protection, a way out, if she wanted it. And how did Mrs. Vale respond? She was grateful, desperate. She wanted to help her daughter escape what she believed was a trafficking situation. Objection. Walsh is on her feet. The witness is characterizing the mental state of someone not present to testify. Sustained, but the damage is done. The jury has heard it. Forced marriage, trafficking, desperate mother. Mills smiles. No further questions. Walsh approaches for cross-examination. She circles Luca like a predator assessing prey. Mr. Devereaux, you testified that you offered Mrs. Vale financial assistance. How much? I don't recall the exact amount. Let me refresh your memory. Walsh produces a document. Bank records showing a transfer of $500,000 to her account 2 weeks before the Moretti Tower attack. Does that sound accurate? Luca's smile doesn't waver. Approximately, yes. That's a significant sum. What did you expect in return? Nothing. It was a humanitarian gesture. A humanitarian gesture of $500,000. Walsh lets the number hang in the air. And in exchange for this gesture, Mrs. Vale provided you with photographs from her daughter's wedding, photographs that were subsequently leaked to the media, correct? She offered them voluntarily, as part of your humanitarian assistance. I was trying to help expose a crime, or you were trying to destroy a competitor's reputation. Walsh's voice sharpens. You've been trying to take over Mr. Moretti's territory for years, haven't you? Objection. Relevance. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Mr. Devereaux. Luca's jaw tightens. Business is competitive. Competitive enough to attack the Moretti Tower with armed mercenaries and explosives? That was self-defense. Self-defense that killed 17 people and caused $40 million in damage. Walsh moves closer. Mr. Devereaux, you've been granted immunity in exchange for your testimony, correct? Yes? Immunity that includes pending investigations into trafficking operations connected to your organization. Objection. Withdrawn. Walsh steps back. No further questions. The judge calls a recess. Serafina watches Luca leave the stand. He's still smiling, still confident, but there's a crack in the armor now, and she's going to break him wide open. The prosecution calls 6 more witnesses over the next 3 days. Associates of Cassian's who testify to criminal activities. Financial experts who trace money through shell corporations. A federal agent who describes years of surveillance. It's damning. Methodical. Designed to paint Cassian as exactly the monster the media believes him to be. Then it's the defense's turn. Walsh calls Marcus Reeves to the stand. He walks in looking like he's been through a war. Because he has. His arm is in a sling. Scars visible on his neck where shrapnel caught him during the tower attack. Walsh guides him through his testimony, his years working security for Cassian, the attack on the tower, the communications he intercepted proving Luca ordered the assault. Mr. Reeves, in your professional opinion, was the attack on the Moretti Tower an act of self-defense? No, ma'am. It was an assassination attempt. And who was the target? Mr. Moretti and his wife. Why target Mrs. Moretti? Because she was the only leverage Luca had. Mr. Moretti doesn't have weaknesses, except her. The jury leans forward. Walsh produces the intercepted communications, plays audio recordings of Luca's people coordinating the attack, discussing casualties, laughing about burning the tower down with everyone inside. The courtroom is silent. Mills cross-examines aggressively, but Marcus doesn't break. He's a soldier who's seen too much to be intimidated by lawyers. When he's dismissed, Serafina can see the shift in the jury's expressions. Doubt. Walsh calls 2 more witnesses, financial analysts who trace Luca's trafficking operations through offshore accounts, a former associate of Luca's who testifies to crimes that make the jury physically recoil. Then Walsh calls the final witness. The defense calls Serafina Moretti. Every eye in the courtroom turns to her. Serafina stands, walks to the witness stand on legs that feel like they might give out. She's sworn in, sits, looks out at the sea of faces watching her, and she begins to tell the truth. My father worked as an accountant for Luca Devereaux for 2 years. During that time, he discovered evidence of human trafficking operations that made him physically ill. He couldn't be part of it anymore. So he took that evidence to Cassian Moretti and offered to testify against Luca in exchange for protection. The courtroom is absolutely silent. Cassian agreed. He helped my father disappear from Luca's radar, gave him legitimate work, promised to protect my family if anything happened to him. And did something happen to him? Walsh asks gently. He got cancer, aggressive, unusual, the kind that could be induced with the right chemicals. He died 6 months later. Do you believe Luca Devereaux was responsible? Objection, speculation. Sustained. Let me rephrase, Walsh says. Did your father believe Luca was responsible? Yes. In his final weeks, he told my mother that Luca had killed him. That's why he begged Cassian to protect us, because he knew Luca would come for me next. Mills stands for cross-examination. Her expression is cold. Mrs. Moretti, you were 19 years old when you married the defendant, correct? Yes. And you expect this jury to believe that a 19-year-old girl willingly married a man 15 years older who runs a criminal empire? I expect them to believe the truth according to you. A woman who has every reason to lie to protect her husband. I'm not lying. Really? Mills approaches, holding a photograph. This is you on your wedding day. You look terrified. I was terrified. I didn't understand what was happening, but that doesn't mean I was forced. You were 19. I was old enough to understand that my father made a deal to save my life, and Cassian honored that deal. Or he manipulated you into believing that. He gave me the option to leave. Serafina's voice rises. Multiple times. He had annulment papers drafted and signed. Money set aside. A passport. Everything I needed to walk away. He told me I wasn't trapped, but I chose to stay. Why? Because I saw who he really was. Not the monster everyone thinks he is, but a man trying to be better than the world he was born into. A man who keeps his promises even when it costs him everything. Mill's expression hardens. A man who's facing life in prison for crimes you claim he didn't commit. He committed crimes. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm saying he's not the monster Luca Devereaux wants you to believe he is. Luca murdered my father, manipulated my mother, tried to kill us both, and now he's using this courtroom to finish what he started. Objection. Overruled. The witness may continue. Serafina turns to the jury. You want to know the truth? Here it is. My husband has done terrible things. He's broken laws, hurt people, built an empire on violence and fear. But he's also trying to dismantle that empire. He filed evidence that's going to destroy dozens of corrupt officials. He's cooperating with investigations that will take down organizations far worse than anything he ever ran. He's choosing to be better, and Luca Devereaux is terrified of what that means. The courtroom erupts. The judge bangs his gavel. Order! Mills steps back, her face pale. Walsh stands. No further questions, Your Honor. Serafina is dismissed. She walks back to her seat, her heart hammering, her hands shaking. She did it. She told the truth, and now all they can do is wait. Unquote. The jury deliberates for 2 days. Serafina spends them in the hotel room, unable to eat, unable to sleep, watching news coverage that swings wildly between declaring Cassian a monster and questioning whether Luca is the real villain. On the morning of the 3rd day, Walsh calls. They have a verdict. Be at the courthouse in an hour. Serafina arrives to another wall of cameras, pushes through, finds her seat in the courtroom. Cassian is already there. He looks at her, and for the first time in weeks, he smiles. Not the cold, controlled smile he wears like armor. A real smile. Small. Tired. Human. The jury files in. The judge asks the foreman to read the verdict. In the case of the United States versus Cassian Moretti, on the charge of racketeering, we find the defendant guilty. Serafina's stomach drops. On the charge of money laundering, we find the defendant guilty. Her vision blurs. On the charge of conspiracy, we find the defendant guilty. She can't breathe. On the charge of human trafficking, the foreman pauses. We find the defendant not guilty. The courtroom explodes. The judge bangs his gavel, calling for order. Cassian doesn't move, just stares straight ahead, his expression unreadable. The judge speaks. Mr. Moretti, based on your cooperation with federal investigators and the evidence provided, this court is prepared to consider a reduced sentence. However, sentencing will be delayed pending the outcome of ongoing investigations into Luca Devereaux's criminal enterprises. He bangs the gavel. Court is adjourned. Guards move to escort Cassian away. He looks back at Serafina one last time, and she sees it in his eyes. This isn't over. Not even close. Serafina is halfway to the exit when someone grabs her arm. She spins. It's a man she doesn't recognize, mid-40s, wearing a cheap suit, eyes that have seen too much. Mrs. Moretti, you need to come with me. Who are you? Someone who knows what Luca's planning next. He leans closer. He's not going to let you walk away from this. Tonight, midnight, the old warehouse district near the port. If you want to stop him before he comes for you, that's where you need to be. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then you'll die wondering what you could have done to save yourself and your husband. He releases her arm. Midnight. Come alone or don't come at all. He disappears into the crowd. Serafina stands frozen, her mind racing. It's a trap, obviously. But what if it's not? What if this is the only chance she has to end this before Luca destroys everything? She pulls out the burner phone, calls Walsh. No answer. Calls Jonathan, straight to voicemail. She's alone, just like Luca planned. Serafina looks toward the courthouse, where Cassian is being led away in handcuffs. Then she makes a decision that will either save them both or get her killed. She's going to that warehouse, and she's going to end this, one way or another. The warehouse district smells like rust and rotting fish. Serafina stands in the shadow of an abandoned shipping container at 11:45, watching the building where she's supposed to meet the stranger. Her breath comes out in visible clouds. October in Chicago bites hard this close to the water, wind cutting through her jacket like it's made of paper. She knows this is stupid, knows walking into an obvious trap is exactly the kind of mistake that gets people killed. But she also knows that waiting for Luca to make his next move is just another way of dying, slower, more painful, watching everyone she loves get destroyed piece by piece until there's nothing left worth protecting. So here she is, alone, armed with nothing but a phone in her pocket and the absolute certainty that if she doesn't end this tonight, it will never end. The warehouse door is unlocked. She pushes it open, the hinges screaming like wounded animals. Inside, the darkness is almost total. Emergency lights flicker somewhere in the back, casting everything in sickly yellow. "Hello?" Her voice echoes off metal walls, footsteps, someone moving in the shadows. A light snaps on, blinding her. Serafina raises her hand against the glare. When her vision clears, the stranger from the courthouse is standing 10 feet away. But he's not alone. 4 men surround him, all armed, and behind them, leaning against a stack of wooden crates like he owns the entire building, is Luca Devereaux. "Mrs. Moretti." His voice is smooth, amused. "Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you'd be foolish enough to actually show up." Serafina's heart slams against her ribs. "Where's the information you promised?" "Information?" Luca laughs. "There is no information. This was just the easiest way to get you alone." The stranger, whoever he really is, moves to stand beside Luca's other men. Not a concerned citizen trying to help, just another mercenary on the payroll. "You could have killed me a dozen times," Serafina says, keeping her voice steady even though her hands are shaking. "Why bring me here? Because killing you would have been too easy, too clean." Luca pushes off the crates, walks closer. "Your husband humiliated me, exposed my operations, turned half the city against me. He deserves to watch everything he tried to protect burn before he spends the rest of his life in a cage. So this is about revenge. This is about sending a message." Luca stops a few feet away. "Cassian thought he could destroy me by playing hero, filing evidence with the feds, cooperating like some reformed saint. But here's what he didn't understand. The system doesn't want reformers. It wants winners and losers, and I always win. You're under investigation. Your operations are falling apart. Temporarily. A minor inconvenience." He waves his hand dismissively. "By this time next year, I'll have rebuilt everything he tried to tear down. Better, stronger. And when your husband is rotting in a federal prison, he'll know that everything he sacrificed was for nothing. He saved innocent people. He saved you." Luca's smile turns vicious. "And now I'm going to take that away from him." One of the men raises his weapon. Serafina's mind races. She has no plan, no backup, no way out. Just the phone in her pocket that she managed to set to record before walking into this nightmare. "Wait." She raises her hands. "You want to send a message? Fine. But at least tell me the truth first. Did you kill my father?" Luca tilts his head, considering. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me." He studies her for a long moment, then shrugs. Victor was weak, sentimental. He couldn't handle what needed to be done to run an organization like mine. So yes, I had him removed. Slowly, painfully. The cancer was my doctor's idea. Brilliant, really. Completely untraceable. The confirmation hits like a fist to the stomach. He begged, you know. Luca's voice is casual, conversational. In his final weeks, called me, crying, asking me to spare his family. I told him I'd consider it, and then I made sure you and your mother suffered anyway. Why? Because betrayal has consequences, because letting traitors walk away makes you look weak, and because, he leans closer, watching people suffer is more satisfying than watching them die. Serafina's vision blurs with rage and grief and something colder than either. Clarity. You made a mistake, she says quietly. Did I? You confessed. On record. She pulls the phone from her pocket, holds it up. The recording app is still running, red light blinking. Every word, admitting to murder, torture, everything. Luca's smile doesn't waver. And who's going to hear it? You'll be dead in the next 60 seconds. The phone will be destroyed. And even if it wasn't, he spreads his hands. I have lawyers who could argue that recording was obtained under duress. Inadmissible in court. Maybe, but it'll be enough to reopen investigations. Enough to make federal prosecutors look closer at your immunity deal. Enough to destroy whatever credibility you have left. Assuming anyone ever hears it. They will. Serafina's voice is steady now, the fear burned away by something sharper. Because I'm not as stupid as you think I am. She hits send. The recording uploads to a cloud server, automatically forwards to Catherine Walsh, Jonathan, and 3 separate news organizations. Luca's expression finally cracks. You! The warehouse door explodes inward. Federal agents flood through, weapons raised, shouting commands that overlap into chaos. FBI, drop your weapons! Luca's men hesitate. One makes the mistake of raising his gun. He's down before he can fire, tackled by agents in tactical gear. The others surrender. Luca stands frozen, his face contorted with rage and disbelief. Special Agent Rachel Chen walks through the door, followed by a dozen more agents. She crosses directly to Serafina. Are you hurt? No? Good. Because that was the stupidest, most reckless thing I've ever seen a civilian do. Did you get the recording? We got it, along with surveillance footage from the courthouse showing Luca's man making contact with you, and GPS data from the phone tracking your location here. Chen's expression is hard. You just handed us everything we need to revoke his immunity deal and charge him with conspiracy to commit murder. Luca is being cuffed now, still staring at Serafina with eyes full of venom. This isn't over, he hisses. Yes, Serafina says quietly. It is. He's dragged away, still cursing, still making threats that don't matter anymore. Chen turns back to Serafina. You should have told us what you were planning. You would have stopped me. Because it was dangerous. So is letting him walk free. Serafina meets her eyes. My father died because Luca couldn't tolerate betrayal. I wasn't going to let him get away with it just because the system was too afraid to take him down. Chen's expression softens slightly. Your husband would have killed me if anything happened to you. Good thing nothing did. This time, don't do it again. I won't need to. Chen nods. We'll need you to come in tomorrow and make a formal statement. But for tonight, she pauses. Go home. Get some rest. This is over. Serafina walks out of the warehouse into cold air that smells like freedom. She doesn't go to the hotel. Instead, she takes a cab to the federal detention center where Cassian is being held pending sentencing. It's after midnight. Visiting hours are long over, but Walsh must have called ahead because the guards let her through without argument. They take her to a private room, sterile gray, with a table bolted to the floor and 2 chairs that look like they've survived 1,000 desperate conversations. Cassian is brought in 5 minutes later. He's wearing prison orange now instead of the suit from court. His hands are cuffed in front of him. There are new lines around his eyes, shadows that weren't there before. But when he sees her, his entire face transforms. Serafina. Her name comes out like a prayer. Are you... What happened? They said you went to meet Luca? I'm fine. She sits. And Luca's in custody, for real this time. What did you do? She tells him everything. The stranger at the courthouse, the warehouse, the recording, Luca's confession. When she finishes, Cassian is staring at her like he's seeing her for the first time. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. That's not... He stops, takes a breath. You're not supposed to risk your life for me. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? I protect you. That's the deal. That's what I promised your father. My father is dead. The words come out harsher than she intends. And I'm not some fragile thing that needs protecting. I'm the woman who just took down the man who murdered him, so stop treating me like I'm going to break. Cassian's jaw works. Then, slowly, something in him releases. You're right, he says quietly. You're not fragile. He struggles for words. You're stronger than anyone I've ever known. I learned from you. No, this isn't something I taught you. This is who you've always been. He leans forward as much as the cuffs allow. I'm sorry. For what? For everything. For dragging you into this world. For making choices that put you in danger. For thinking I could protect you by keeping you locked away instead of trusting you to stand beside me. Serafina's throat tightens. You kept your promise to my father. That's all that matters. It's not. Because somewhere along the way, this stopped being about a promise to a dead man and became about... He stops. Swallows hard. About you. About not wanting to live in a world where you don't exist. The words settle between them like something fragile and precious. I'm not going anywhere, Serafina says. I'm going to prison, Serafina. Guilty verdicts on 3 charges. Even with cooperation and reduced sentencing, I'm looking at years. Then I'll wait. You shouldn't have to... I'm not asking permission. Her voice is steady, absolute. You waited for me to understand what we were building together. Now I'm waiting for you to come home, however long that takes. Cassian's eyes glisten. The annulment papers. They're still valid. You could sign them tomorrow and walk away free. I don't want free. I want you. He closes his eyes. When he opens them again, there's something raw and unguarded in his expression. I love you. The words land like an earthquake. Serafina has heard him say 1,000 things over the past months. Commands, explanations, warnings, but never this. Never the 3 words that make everything else make sense. I love you too, she whispers. They sit in silence, separated by a table and cuffs and a system that will keep them apart for years. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Serafina feels something other than fear. Hope. The sentencing hearing happens 2 weeks later. Cassian stands before the judge, his lawyers flanking him, while federal prosecutors outline the charges and recommended sentences. Mr. Moretti has cooperated extensively with ongoing investigations, the lead prosecutor says. His evidence has led to the indictment of 43 individuals on corruption charges. Additionally, his testimony was instrumental in securing convictions against Luca Devereaux on charges of murder, conspiracy, and racketeering. The judge, an older woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that have seen every kind of criminal, studies Cassian carefully. Mr. Moretti, you've been convicted of serious crimes, racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy. These are not minor offenses. I understand, Your Honor. However, your cooperation and the evidence you've provided have demonstrated a willingness to accept responsibility and assist in dismantling the systems of corruption you were once part of. She pauses. That being said, actions have consequences. She reads the sentence. 5 years. Federal prison. Eligible for parole after 3 with continued cooperation. It's less than it could have been. More than Serafina hoped. Cassian doesn't react, just nods once, accepting the verdict like he accepts everything else, with the quiet dignity of someone who's made peace with the cost of his choices. Guards move to escort him out. He looks back at Serafina one last time. She mouths 2 words. I'll wait. He mouths back, I know. Then he's gone. 3 years pass like water wearing down stone, slow, relentless, changing everything without making a sound. Serafina finishes her degree, graduates with honors, accepts a position at a nonprofit focused on dismantling human trafficking networks, using everything she learned from living inside the world her father tried to escape. She visits Cassian every month. They talk through glass and telephones, building a relationship from scratch with none of the violence and fear that defined their beginning. She learns about his childhood. The mother who read to him in libraries and tried to teach him that revenge was poison. The father who turned him into a weapon and called it love. He learns about her dreams, the countries she wants to visit, the law career she's building, the life she's creating that exists outside the shadow of what they survived together. And slowly, without either of them quite noticing when it happens, the marriage that started as a transaction becomes something real, built on truth instead of necessity, on choice instead of obligation, on love that was earned instead of demanded. Luca Devereaux is sentenced to life without parole. The evidence from his warehouse confession, combined with testimony from dozens of his former associates, buries him so deep he'll never see daylight again. Serafina's mother tries to reach out. Dozens of times. Letters, phone calls, messages passed through lawyers. Serafina doesn't respond for 2 years. Then one afternoon in late spring, she finally calls back. Mom. Her mother's voice breaks. Serafina, oh sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I know. I thought I was protecting you. I didn't understand. I know. Serafina takes a breath. And I forgive you. You... what? I forgive you. Not because what you did was okay. It wasn't. You almost got us both killed. But because I understand what it's like to make desperate choices when you're terrified of losing someone you love. Her mother sobs on the other end of the line. I can't promise things will go back to how they were, Serafina continues, but I'm willing to try. If you are. Yes. God, yes. Anything. They talk for 2 hours. It's painful and awkward and nothing like the easy relationship they had before everything fell apart. But it's a start. And sometimes Serafina has learned starting over is all you can do. Cassian is released on a cold morning in November, 3 years and 2 months after sentencing. Serafina is waiting outside the prison gates when he walks through, carrying nothing but a single duffel bag and the weight of everything he's trying to leave behind. He stops when he sees her, like he can't quite believe she's real. You came, he says. I told you I would. He crosses the distance between them in 3 strides and pulls her into his arms, holds her so tightly she can barely breathe. I missed you, he whispers into her hair. I missed you too. They stand there in the parking lot while other released inmates walk past with families or alone, starting over or giving up, and Serafina realizes something important. This is what her father wanted. Not the marriage itself, but the protection that came with it. The chance for her to build a life that existed beyond the violence he couldn't escape. And Cassian gave her that. Not by locking her away, but by fighting beside her until they both made it to the other side. What happens now? Cassian asks, pulling back to look at her. Now we go home. Where's home? Serafina smiles. Anywhere we decide to build it. They don't go back to the tower. The building still stands, repaired after the fire, but it belongs to someone else now. The empire Cassian spent his life maintaining was sold off piece by piece, legitimate businesses separated from criminal operations, everything reorganized into something that can exist in daylight. Instead, they rent an apartment on the north side. Small. Nothing like the penthouse. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with windows that actually open, neighbors who don't know or care who they used to be. Cassian takes a job consulting for federal investigators, helping them understand how criminal organizations operate, where the vulnerabilities are, how to dismantle them without creating power vacuums that just spawn new violence. It's not glamorous. The pay is a fraction of what he used to make. But it's honest work. And for the first time in his life, Cassian comes home without blood on his hands. Serafina continues her work with the nonprofit. She travels, gives talks, helps draft legislation aimed at closing loopholes traffickers exploit. At night, they sit in their small living room and talk about everything and nothing, about the past they're trying to learn from and the future they're building together. Sometimes Cassian wakes up from nightmares. Prison, the tower attack, his father's voice telling him he'll never be anything but a monster. Serafina holds him until the shaking stops. Sometimes Serafina can't stop thinking about the warehouse. Luca's smile. The gun pointed at her head. How close she came to not walking away. Cassian holds her until the fear subsides. They're not healed. Maybe they never will be, but they're healing, and that's enough. Jibas. 1 year after Cassian's release, they go back to the Moretti Tower. Not to reclaim it, just to see it. To stand in front of the building where everything almost ended and prove to themselves that they survived. The lobby is different now. New management, different security. But the bones are the same. Marble floors, brass fixtures, the kind of wealth that exists whether you deserve it or not. They take the elevator to the 31st floor. The library is still there, unchanged, untouched, like the new owners recognized it as something sacred and couldn't bring themselves to alter it. Books lining the walls, velvet chairs angled toward each other, a fireplace waiting for flames. Serafina walks to the shelf where she found his mother's letters. They're gone now, packed away somewhere safe, but she can still remember every word. Be better than this world expects you to be. She'd be proud of you, Serafina says quietly. Cassian is standing by the fireplace, running his hand along the mantel. I don't know about that. I do. She crosses to him. You did exactly what she asked. You became better. I'm still the same person who committed those crimes, who hurt people, who built an empire on violence. And you're also the person who tore it down, who chose to cooperate even when it cost you everything, who kept your promise to my father even though it destroyed your life. She takes his hand. Your mother didn't ask you to be perfect. She asked you to try. And you did. Cassian looks at her with eyes that have seen too much and somehow still found their way back to something resembling peace. How did I get this lucky? He asks. Lucky? Serafina almost laughs. We got married at gunpoint, survived a gang war, nearly died a dozen times, and spent 3 years apart while you were in prison. That's not luck. Then what is it? Survival, stubbornness, and maybe, she pauses, maybe something like grace, the kind you don't deserve but get anyway. I don't believe in grace. You don't have to believe in it for it to be real. They stand together in the library his mother built, surrounded by books and firelight and the ghosts of who they used to be. And for the first time since Serafina signed those papers in a chapel surrounded by armed men, the future doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like a promise they get to keep. 5 years later, Serafina stands in a courtroom again, but this time she's not a witness or a defendant. She's a lawyer. The case is a trafficking ring operating out of 3 states. The victims are mostly young women, some even younger than Serafina was when she married Cassian. The defendants are men who thought money and power made them untouchable. Serafina proves them wrong. She presents evidence meticulously, tells the victims' stories with the kind of fierce compassion that only comes from understanding what it's like to be treated as property. The jury convicts on all counts. When the verdict is read, one of the victims, a girl barely 20 with hollow eyes and hands that won't stop shaking, finds Serafina in the hallway. Thank you, she whispers. You're the one who was brave enough to testify. I wasn't brave. I was terrified. That's what courage is, being terrified and doing it anyway. The girl nods, then, hesitantly, will it get easier, being scared all the time? Serafina thinks about the warehouse, the wedding, the night the tower burned. I don't know, she says honestly, but I can tell you that it gets different. The fear doesn't go away, but you learn to live with it, and eventually you build something bigger than the fear, something worth protecting. What did you build? Serafina smiles. A life that belongs to me. That night, she comes home to find Cassian in the kitchen, attempting to cook dinner. He's terrible at it. The pasta is overcooked. The sauce tastes like it came from a jar because it did. But he's trying, and that's what matters. They eat at their small table, talking about their days like normal people living normal lives. Except they're not normal. They never will be. They're 2 people who survived a war that should have killed them both, who chose each other when they could have walked away, who built something real out of the wreckage of a transaction neither of them wanted. After dinner, they walked to the lake. The same lake Serafina used to stare at from 47 floors up, feeling like she was drowning even though she was surrounded by luxury. Now she stands at the water's edge with Cassian's hand in hers, and the distance feels different. Not like falling, like flying. Do you ever regret it? Cassian asks. Staying, waiting, all of it? No, do you? Marrying you was the best decision I ever made, even if everything that came after almost destroyed us both. We're not destroyed. No. He pulls her closer. We're not. They stand there as the sun sets over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. The city that almost killed them, the city they saved, the city they're learning to call home. I love you, Serafina says. I love you too. And high above the city, on the 31st floor of a tower they no longer own, a library sits empty and waiting. Books on the shelves, chairs angled toward each other, a fireplace that hasn't seen flames in years. But the message remains, written in the margins of an old novel in handwriting that slants slightly to the right. For Cassian, the world is bigger than revenge. And somewhere in the city below, two people who learned that truth the hard way walk home together. Not because they have to, because they choose to, every single day. 10 years after Serafina signed papers in a chapel surrounded by armed men, she stands in a different room entirely, a hospital room, sterile, bright, smelling like antiseptic and new beginnings. Cassian is beside her, holding her hand so tightly she can feel his pulse against her palm. Between them, wrapped in a soft blanket, is a child, a daughter. Dark hair, eyes that haven't settled on a color yet, tiny fists waving at nothing in particular. "She's perfect," Cassian whispers. "She's going to be stubborn," Serafina says, "just like both of us." "God help us." They stare at this small, impossible person they created, this life that exists because they survived when they should have died, because they chose each other when they could have chosen hate. "What should we name her?" Cassian asks. Serafina thinks about her father, about Cassian's mother, about all the people who tried to save them and paid the price for their kindness. "Grace," she says finally. Cassian looks at her. "You said you don't believe in grace." "I said you don't have to believe in it for it to be real." She touches their daughter's tiny hand. "And maybe this is what grace looks like. Not something you deserve, just something you get anyway. A chance to start over, to be better." "Grace," Cassian repeats. He smiles, not the cold, controlled smile he used to wear like armor, but something warm and real and absolutely human. "I like it." Their daughter, Grace, makes a small sound, not quite a cry, just a declaration of existence. And Serafina thinks about the girl she was 10 years ago, terrified, trapped, certain that signing those papers was the end of everything. She was wrong. It was the beginning, not of a fairy tale, not of some perfect happy ending where everything works out exactly as planned, but of something real. A life built from ashes and choices and the stubborn refusal to let violence and fear have the final word. A life where the most feared man in Chicago learned to cook terrible pasta and come home without blood on his hands. Where a 19-year-old girl forced into marriage became a woman who dismantled trafficking rings and refused to let anyone define her story except herself. Where two people who never should have worked somehow built something that did. "Welcome to the world, Grace," Serafina whispers to her daughter. "It's messy and complicated and absolutely terrifying, but it's also bigger than you think, bigger than revenge, bigger than fear." She looks at Cassian, "Bigger than anything that tries to destroy you." And in that moment, surrounded by sterile hospital walls and the sound of machines and the impossible weight of this tiny person who will never know the darkness her parents fought through to get here, Serafina finally understands what her father was trying to give her. Not safety, not protection, freedom. The freedom to choose who she becomes, who she loves, what she builds from the wreckage of other people's wars. And she chose this, all of it. The fear, the fight, the man who married her to keep a promise and stayed because he loved her. The life that almost killed them both and somehow gave them everything worth living for. Cassian kisses her forehead. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For seeing something worth saving when everyone else just saw a monster." "You were never a monster," Serafina says. "You were just a man trying to be better than the world that made you. And you succeeded." "We succeeded." "Yeah, we did." Outside, Chicago spreads beneath them. A city that almost destroyed them. A city they helped save. A city that will keep churning forward with or without them. But inside this room, none of that matters. There's just a family. Imperfect, complicated. Built from choices that should have broken them, but somehow made them stronger. And as Grace falls asleep between her parents, unaware of the scars they carry or the battles they fought, Serafina makes a promise. Not to keep her daughter safe from everything. That's impossible. The world is too sharp, too cruel, too full of people who hurt others for profit and power. But to teach her what Serafina learned, that survival isn't about avoiding pain, it's about choosing what you do with it. That love isn't about perfection, it's about seeing someone's worst parts and choosing to stay anyway. That grace, real grace, isn't something you earn or deserve. It's something you recognize when it shows up in your life, and you're brave enough to hold on to it, even when it costs you everything, especially then. Cassian's hand finds hers, squeezes gently, and Serafina squeezes back. Two people who started as strangers bound by someone else's promise, who became partners in survival. Then lovers who chose each other despite every reason not to. And finally, miraculously, a family. Proof that even the darkest stories can find their way toward light, if you're willing to fight for it, if you're willing to endure, if you're willing to believe that the world is bigger than revenge, bigger than fear, bigger than anything trying to destroy you, and absolutely, definitely worth saving.